Warrior Lore. Chapter 2063. Looking at Xiang Wushuang in the sky, Yuan Yin was dumbfounded. He had wanted to use Xiang Wushuang as a stepping stone to make a name for himself. However, Yuan Yin had never imagined that he would be defeated so miserably. He couldn't even withstand a single blow. You overestimate yourself. Xiang Wushuang still didn't look at Yuan Yin. His gaze slowly swept across the surroundings. In the end, it wasn't clear whether it was intentional or not, but his gaze landed on the mountain peak where the desolate country was. Looking at it from afar, he said, "Demon King Du Xiaofu, let's fight." His voice reverberated through the void like thunder. So Xiang Wushuang's target is the Demon King Du Xiaofu. The Demon King Du Xiaofu is definitely the strongest person under the Saint Realm. It's not strange that Xiang Wushuang wants to fight the Demon King Du Xiaofu. It's said that although the Demon King Du Xiaofu killed several half-step saints, he also suffered heavy injuries. I'm afraid he hasn't recovered from his injuries yet. So Xiang Wushuang actually wanted to fight the Demon King Du Xiaofu. This was definitely the battle that everyone was looking forward to the most. In an instant, many people looked at the mountain peak where the desolate country was located, waiting for the most anticipated battle. Many figures were sitting cross-legged in a spacious area. The first was an elegant woman whose eyes were originally closed. Even when Yuan Yin and Xiang Wushuang attacked, she did not move at all. But at this moment, she opened her eyes. Her beautiful eyes were full of spirit, and there was an aura of liveliness about them. Beside the elegant woman, there was another woman who seemed to be slightly smaller. She sat cross-legged, and her figure was curvy. Her dreamy purple hair shone so brightly that it could reflect her beauty. She was also extremely beautiful. She stared at the mountain peak in front of her and murmured, "Will that fellow act?" At the top of the towering tree, Qi Yeshi, Sumu Xin, Dongli Qingqing, and the others also frowned slightly. They followed Jialo Jueyu and Mo Tianxiao to look at Du Xiaofu. "Father, that guy actually dared to challenge you." Little Xingxing pouted, clearly very unhappy. From the looks of it, they came prepared. Ouyang Shuang said, "Don't worry about it. Everyone, prepare to enter the eternal tomb." Under the astonished gazes of Lin Qingrong, Mo Tianxiao, Feng Han, and Huang Wu, Du Xiaofu actually said such words, and then his figure jumped down from the towering tree. Unparalleled elephant. Du Xiaoyao stared at Xiang Wushuang. Her golden eyes flashed as she followed after Du Xiaofu. Looking at Du Xiaofu's departing figure, Young Feng, Feng Han, Mo Tianxiao, Dongfang Qingmu, and the others were astonished. They all smiled wryly. Up in the void, Xiang Wushuang's calm expression changed when he saw that there was no movement from the mountain peak for a long time. Xiang Wushuang didn't think that the person on the mountain peak couldn't hear him. The only explanation was that the other party didn't intend to pay attention to him. Thousands of years ago, he had once swept through his peers with peerless talent. Now that he had reappeared, he wasn't interested in ordinary supremes. He didn't even put them in his eyes. However, Xiang Wushuang had noticed the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Those rumors had aroused his battle intent. Xiang Wushuang wanted to fight with the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, to test himself. With his status, taking the initiative to issue a challenge, it was clear that his battle intent was strong. However, the other party didn't respond. To Xiang Wushuang, this was tantamount to humiliation. From the beginning until now, even the supremes of the 9 great clans, the Dragon Clan, the Phoenix Clan, and the others did not dare to disregard him like this. But now, this human Du Xiaofu did not care about him at all. Xiang Wushuang looked at the mountain peak in the distance, but he had no intention of approaching. His hair fluttered, and his eyes flickered with electricity. Xiang Wushuang didn't speak again. Instead, he turned and left. It seems that the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, is still recuperating. He doesn't dare to fight because he hasn't recovered yet. It's possible that the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, doesn't want to fight with Xiang Wushuang. The battle that everyone was looking forward to didn't happen. Everyone was discussing it with disappointment. In the open space, the elegant violet lotus fairy closed her eyes again. Her beautiful figure was wrapped in a faint purple glow. Has that guy become a coward? The beautiful woman at the side pouted. Her beautiful eyes flickered with spiritual light as she muttered to herself, "I wonder how the little fellow is doing now." Such a commotion quickly subsided. Not long after, there were still a few scattered creatures descending. However, it did not attract much attention. On the mountain peak, Du Xiaofu did not continue his seclusion. Instead, he waited for the eternal tomb to open. He studied Du Xiaohuang out of curiosity. But this result shocked Du Xiaofu. As expected of the supreme ant phoenix that was rumored to not be much weaker than a true phoenix, it was too powerful. Before the old ant emperor died, he used a secret technique to disperse his cultivation into Du Xiaohuang's body. After the nirvana transformation, Du Xiaohuang directly became a supreme nirvana cultivator and stepped into the nirvana stage of nirvana. This made Du Xiaofu feel a little helpless. Thinking back to when he had stepped into the nirvana of true self, he had spent a lot of effort and experienced a lot of training. Even little Star had not had it easy. But Du Xiaohuang, this little fellow, had done it easily. Grandpa, Grandma, 3 seniors. On the mountain peak, under the ancient tree, Du Xiaofu paid his respects to his grandfather Jialo Batian, his grandmother Jialo Maluo, Xian Gu, Moon Saint, and the Saint Realm expert of the Phoenix clan. He learned that the Saint Realm expert of the Phoenix clan was Saint Feng Qi. Unbelievable. Saint Feng Qi gazed at Du Xiaofu with extreme surprise. His embroidered clothes were fluctuating with flame runes, and he was suffused with the aura of an exalt for no reason. How long has it been? Yet the injuries of this kid before me seem to have completely recovered. This is too abnormal. Xiang Wushuang is extraordinary and extremely belligerent. I'm afraid he won't let it go. Grandma Jialo reminded Du Xiaofu. She knew Xiang Wushuang's background and that he was extraordinary. Du Xiaofu had refused his challenge, so Xiang Wushuang would not let it go so easily. Just don't provoke me. Du Xiaofu grinned. The immemorial Thunder Elephant clan is not simple. They have a history. An old man from the clan is also here, and he has some friendship with me. Jialo Batian looked at Du Xiaofu and smiled. But just don't suffer a loss. I understand. Du Xiaofu nodded. The meaning of Jialo Batian's words was obvious. He would give the immemorial Thunder Elephant clan some face, but only if he didn't suffer a loss. Du Xiaofu then explained his purpose in coming here. He wanted to seek advice from Saint Realm experts like Jialo Batian, Moon Saint, Xian Gu, and Feng Qi Saint. He wanted to improve as soon as possible. The Saint Realm is transcendence. Saint Feng Qi smiled and said to Du Xiaofu, "The Saint Realm is flawless." Xian Gu said. His eyes were filled with vicissitudes of time. Jialo Batian told Du Xiaofu, "The Saint Realm is the true self. If you can destroy even the slightest bit of falsehood, you will be able to prove your path to the Saint Realm. Like a mirror removing a speck of dust, a ray of light will appear. If you can destroy all falsehood, then everything will return to perfection. That is the Saint Realm." Jialo Batian continued, "Everything becomes the Saint Realm. The 6 directions are the heart of the mirror, the one who comes and goes, 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 the one who is the Saint Realm." Moon Saint said. His hazy figure emitted a light as he quietly sat cross-legged, giving off a mysterious and unfathomable feeling. Du Xiaofu listened to the 4 saints and seemed to have understood something. His eyes were contemplating as if he was in a daze. "Many thanks, grandfather. Many thanks to the 3 seniors." Du Xiaofu was in a daze like this for an entire 4 hours before he woke up. He knew that he had benefited greatly, and he left with a happy expression on his face. There's something very important. Not long after, a few young men and women found Du Xiaofu. Their faces were serious. Although they weren't as outstanding as a Mo Tianxiao, Lian Qingrong, or Huang Linger, they were definitely extraordinary. "You can say it," Du Xiaofu said. These extraordinary young men and women were Gu Xinyan, General, Ghostchild, Wu Kei, Gua Xiaofeng, Black Eagle, Tang Wu, Cloud-Chasing Swallow, Yi Feiyu, and the other leading figures of Tianwu Academy. They had already gathered here. At this moment, Gu Xinyan, Gua Xiaofeng, and the others had long been surpassed by Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, and Ouyang Shuang. They were also inferior to Mo Tianxiao, Lin Qingrong, and Dongfang Qingmu. However, it was undeniable that Gu Xinyan, Guo Xiaofeng, and the others were definitely geniuses of the younger generation. It was just that there were too many geniuses around them that were drowned out by their brilliance. During this period of time, we found some corpses and remains in the heavenly devil battlefield and obtained some clues. Gu Xinyan's slightly tight-fitting red clothes revealed her graceful figure. Her beautiful eyes looked at Du Xiaofu with ripples of light in them. Pausing for a moment, Gu Xinyan spoke very slowly. We believe that many of our Tianwu Academy's seniors must have died in the heavenly devil battlefield. I've heard some rumors in the academy that our Tianwu Academy has an extremely ancient heritage. Therefore, we suspect that if there really was a Tianwu Academy in ancient times, it's very likely that many of our Tianwu Academy's seniors also existed in the heavenly devil battlefield during the great calamity of the world. What? Du Xiaofu was astonished. Many seniors of Tianwu Academy had died in the heavenly devil battlefield, leaving behind corpses, remains, and clues. This was almost enough to prove that Tianwu Academy had already existed in ancient times. Du Xiaofu naturally wouldn't doubt the judgment of Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, and the others. Du Xiaofu also remembered what the artifact soul in the ancient desolate space had said. The original owner of the ancient desolate space was the principal of Tianwu Academy. He established Tianwu Academy in a desolate land and shocked the world ever since. Later on, the world suffered a great calamity. Countless experts had fallen, and many ancient creatures had suffered. Even the principal of Tianwu Academy couldn't escape from the calamity. We've obtained some clues. Perhaps the great calamity of the world is closely related to Tianwu Academy, Wu Kei said to Du Xiaofu. Chapter 2064. Everyone, be careful when the time comes, Du Xiaofu said to the crowd as he fell into deep thought. The desolate ancient space that he possessed was only a fragment of the original desolate ancient space. From what he learned from the artifact soul back then, the current desolate ancient space only occupied a small portion of the original desolate ancient space. It was far from being comparable to its peak. Back when Tianwu Academy was destroyed, the artifact soul of the desolate ancient space was ambushed by a powerful expert, causing it to collapse in the end. Before Du Xiaofu merged with the desolate ancient space, it said that the principal of Tianwu Academy might still be alive in this world. If Du Xiaofu could merge with the complete desolate ancient space and become an expert, he would be able to help the principal of Tianwu Academy escape from the calamity. A moment later, Du Xiaofu went to look for Qi Yeshi. Given Qi Yeshi's identity when she entered Tianwu Academy, Du Xiaofu guessed that the Yinyang school would definitely know a thing or two about Tianwu Academy. I only found out about it from my clan. Tianwu Academy's origins are mysterious. Before the calamity struck, it once illuminated the 3 continents and the Kyushu region. It's impossible for it to be inferior to the dragons, phoenixes, and the 9 great clans. Back then, my clan arranged for me to enter Tianwu Academy to search for a treasure that might be related to the heavenly devil battlefield. However, who would have thought that the academy would? Qi Yeshi told Du Xiaofu everything she knew. She was very sad. She also had deep feelings for Tianwu Academy. When Tianwu Academy was in danger, Qi Yeshi asked for help from the experts in her clan. However, it was already too late. It's very complicated. Du Xiaofu frowned. Back then, the 9 great clans, the dragons, and the phoenixes were implicated in the calamity. The rulers of the 3,000 worlds and the dragon god were involved as well. Now, even Tianwu Academy was related to it. Are there any other secrets in that calamity? Du Xiaofu muttered as he fell into deep thought. Du Xiaofu went to a quiet place and continued to comprehend the words of Feng Qi Saint, Jalobatian, Moon Sage, Xiangu, and the others. The sage realm was transcendence. The saint realm was flawless. Destroying a portion of falsehood meant proving a portion of the saint path. Everything would return to perfection, and that was the saint realm. If one is neither round nor holy, if one is not holy, then one is not holy. If one is vast and uniform, then one is holy. Du Xiaofu was deep in thought. He seemed to have comprehended something and was immersed in it. Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing were also sitting cross-legged in the distance, each of them comprehending. After a few hours, It was finally time for the eternal tomb to open. Rumble. This time, the sound was exceptionally loud, causing heaven and earth to tremble. A bright moon appeared in the void, accompanied by a vast chi. The sun, the moon, and the stars seemed to be rotating in the void, and the stars moved around. Rumble. The voice that came from ancient times was like the voice of a god. It transcended past and present, coming from the primordial times. The vast void before them trembled. Dazzling light gushed out, and mysterious runes flickered, illuminating the sky. This scene was like a world descending. The vast chi made all the cultivators present, including the saints, feel their hearts beat faster. Their eyes rippled. Hiss, hiss. At this moment, in the mountains all around, many eyes flashed like divine light, looking in the direction of the eternal tomb. On the mountain, Jalobatian, Moon Saint, Xiangu, Saint Fengqi, Jalomola, Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and the others stood up and looked in the direction of the sky. The eternal tomb is really opening. Around the wilderness, countless creatures trembled, their eyes red. In the mountains, there was a space of nothingness, barren and dark. A woo. Suddenly, the void trembled, and the ground shook. There were low roars of beasts coming from afar, shaking people's souls. Whoosh! On top of a mountain, the 9-demon emperor, Moksha, and the others opened their eyes. Whoosh! Above the void, there were 3 huge clusters of demonic clouds covering the sky. They were like clouds that hung from the sky, covering everything. Lightning flashed faintly, and the aura was terrifying. At this moment, the energy of heaven and earth stopped fluctuating. The 2 clusters of demonic clouds converged and dissipated. 2 figures floated in the air, one male and one female, one old and one young. The old man was about 60 years old. He had no hair at all, but his bald head was completely black. A wide robe covered his slightly withered body. It swayed back and forth like a woman's long skirt. However, his eyes were a deep dark brown, making people feel as if they were looking into an endless abyss. The woman was not old, about 30 years old. Her body was curvy, and her chest was curvy. Her skin was white as snow, and her rosy face was a sharp contrast to the old man's dark bald head. This woman didn't have many clothes on her, only covering the important parts of her body, revealing her fair thighs and deep cleavage. It made people worry that her clothes would be exposed as she walked. This woman was also very beautiful and had a mature charm. However, there were strange patterns on her beautiful cheeks that covered half of her face. It was like a skull pattern, which added to the strangeness and gave people a sinister feeling. When the 2 appeared, their gazes fell on the huge dark golden-winged great pung not far away in the void. The dark golden runes around the great pung spread out, creating an abyss-like vacuum in the surrounding void. Black light that made people palpitate surged out. On its wings, 36 exceptionally bright dark golden rays shuttled back and forth like lightning, emitting a frightening tyrannical pressure. Greetings to the 8th Demon Emperor. Greetings to the 7th Demon Emperor. When the old man and woman appeared in the void, the 5 people behind Moksha and Mo Lingzi bowed respectfully. Old 7, Old 8. The 9th Demon Emperor shot out, standing together with the old man and woman. However, his gaze also fell on the huge dark golden-winged great pung. Berserk energies of the world swept towards the great pung like a storm. Rays of energy gushed into the great ping's body like light pillars, causing the aura on its body to rise. As the saying goes, the devil rises 10. Transforming into a demonic pung, your future is boundless. The bald old man spoke. He was the 8th Demon Emperor. Demonic chi gushed out from his dark brown eyes, as if the 9 underworld's demonic gate was about to open. Gee! As if it had heard the 8th Demon Emperor's words, the great pung screeched. The dark golden runes that blotted the sky started to retract, and finally turned into a human form. Black robes, black hair, a straight nose, and jade-like skin. At this moment, there was an additional layer of dark golden color, adding to its sharp temperament. Chi-Chi, Jalo Jumi opened his eyes. Dark golden radiance surged, and within those pitch-black pupils, there seemed to be a great pung spreading its wings. The aura around his body shook the void, causing the void to rumble faintly. Chi-chi. In the distant void, the last cluster of demonic clouds was the largest. There were lightning fluctuations, and a strange phenomenon appeared in the sky. Demonic chi permeated the void, and in an instant, the world seemed to darken. Gradually, the demonic clouds turned into a huge black shadow that appeared in the void. It was like a black sun, and a black figure stood there. The black figure's eyes were like black holes in the void. Scenes of blood flowing, corpses strewn everywhere, and all living beings wailing in agony appeared. Awoo! When such a black, demonic figure appeared in the sky, roars could be heard from afar. Greetings, great demon emperor. Someone bowed. The 9th demon emperor, the 8th demon emperor, and the 7th demon emperor also lowered their heads. The black figure stood in the sky, and his black hole-like eyes looked into the distance. He said, "The eternal tomb is already opening. The last divine lightning cauldron must be obtained." As he spoke, the black figure turned into a black light pillar and swept out. Rumble. The eternal tomb was opening. In the void, it was as though a world was falling, and dazzling light was spewing out. Above the firmament, the stars moved and the mist was dazzling. Then, a huge void passage opened between the bright moon and the bright sun. It was as if a huge hole of light had appeared in the vast firmament. It was a shocking sight to behold. The vast and boundless ancient battlefield could be vaguely seen in the void tunnel. In the middle of the ancient battlefield, in the ruins, there was a huge object that stood there. It was like a heavenly pillar that supported the falling world. Buzz buzz, divine chants came from the ancient battlefield. Around the void passage, a galaxy appeared. It was as though it was real. The vast aura was about to crush all the living beings present. Those who were not strong enough all knelt on the ground. They were unable to resist the huge aura that came from ancient times. The lightning martial vein in Du Xiaofu's body was surging, and the purple-gold dark thunder in the divine watchtower was rumbling. It was as though they were being pulled by some unknown force. Narrowing his eyes, Du Xiaofu stared at the spatial passageway. The ancient battlefield that appeared was like a world tomb, and the spatial passageway was like the entrance to the world tomb. The sun, the moon, and the stars were connected, and the constellations moved. How vast was this? This was simply too grand. It made people feel as if they would enter another world as long as they walked through the spatial passageway. How extravagant! Du Xiaofu was shocked. Only the masters of the 3,000 great worlds could afford such extravagance. The eternal tomb is opening. I can feel it. There are the auras of our ancestors in there. On the surrounding mountains and peaks, many experts and young supreme talents appeared. They were shrouded in light, and there were strange fluctuations. They were surrounded by runes, and the light was dazzling. At this moment, all the experts and supreme talents of the current era began to appear. In the outside world, any one of them would be able to shake a region. After a series of trials and adventures in the heavenly devil battlefield, they had gathered together. This was a grand occasion, and it was their last chance. These supreme talents were all blessed by the heavens. They were all extraordinary and talented, but the most eye-catching thing was on the mountain peak at the front. There, the most dazzling light erupted, and the most supreme talents gathered together. On the mountain peak, Jialo Jueyu, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoyao, Huang Linger, Mo Tianxiao, Dongfang Qingmu, Qi Yeshi, Ouyang Shuang, Sumu Xin, and the other supreme talents flew into the void and looked at the entrance to the eternal tomb. Chapter 2065. The entrance to the Tomb of Eternity was completely opened, and the space seemed to have been forcibly torn apart. The door was so huge that it seemed to encompass half of the sky. The eyes of the wild creatures were red, and there were beast cultivators who reverted to their true forms. The beasts stood like mountains, shining with dazzling light. The birds spread their wings like clouds, and their huge eyes were like small suns. Their auras were powerful and terrifying. But at this moment, no creature dared to enter rashly. None of the creatures who had been able to cultivate until they entered the heavenly devil battlefield and made it to the entrance of the tomb of eternity alive were fools. With the lesson learned, no one dared to enter rashly. The treasures were important, but their lives were more important. Even those who sought riches and danger didn't dare to act rashly at this moment. They're here. Suddenly, in the air, Moon Saint, Jalobatian, Xiangu, and Saint Fengqi looked to the side at almost the same time. Devil religion? Du Xiaofu raised his head and looked in the direction where Moon Saint, Xiangu, and the other cultivators were looking. The purple thunder profound cauldron in his body was fluctuating. Du Xiaofu felt the aura of those from the devil religion. Thick demonic qi swept over from there. The demonic qi was like a storm, permeating the space. In an instant, the world seemed to darken. As long as the tomb of eternity was still filled with dazzling light that couldn't be concealed. At this moment, there were many powerful auras in the air all around. Light flashed, and they were all cultivators of the Saint Plane. They were all moved by the devil religion. Walala! Billowing demonic qi swept out like a storm, covering the sky and the sun. Many figures were faintly visible in the demonic qi. At the front was a middle-aged man in armor. Mysterious runes flickered on his black armor. There was also a bald old man with a black head and a beautiful woman with a curvy figure. They were all wrapped in demonic qi, and the space around them was constantly distorted. Du Xiaofu stared closely and felt that many of the figures wrapped in demonic qi were looking at him. Moksha, Jialo Julike, and Mo Lingzi. Following those gazes, Du Xiaofu saw Moksha, Jialo Jueliao, and Mo Lingzi, and other familiar figures. However, there was no doubt that the black-armored middle-aged man, the beautiful woman, and the strange bald old man were much more powerful. Du Xiaofu could sense that the auras of the three of them were probably stronger than the auras of Saint Feng Qi. It's them. Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, and Qi Yi. She noticed the figures behind Moksha. They had fought before. Oh, war! The roars of beasts resounded. Many demonic beasts and evil spirits appeared amidst the surging devil qi. Their gazes were terrifying. At this moment, there weren't many demonic beasts and evil spirits, but their auras were extremely powerful. Some of their auras were even on par with peak domain realm experts. These evil spirits and demonic beasts are too strong, Zixuan said. Just the auras of those demonic beasts and evil spirits were already extremely powerful. The evil spirits and demonic beasts they had encountered along the way paled in comparison to this. Don't even think about entering the eternal tomb. Suddenly, such a voice spread out. The void trembled quietly, and a monstrous aura spread out. A bright moon hung in the sky, and moonlight cascaded down like a waterfall. In the center of the light, a moving figure was mysterious and beautiful, hazy and vast. Is Moon Sage going to make a move? Is she going to stop the people of the devil religion from entering the eternal tomb?
Yes.
Du Xiaofu's eyes trembled, and he clenched his fists in his long sleeves. Boom! Moon Sage made her move without any hesitation. Her hazy figure swept out, and wherever she passed, moonlight surged violently. A river of stars appeared, and a huge starlight handprint formed. It was as if the stars were spinning out, and it slapped towards the people of the devil religion. When such a handprint appeared, it was as if a bomb had been thrown into a calm lake. The stars spun, and spatial ripples spread out along with the starlight. The energy of heaven and earth in this part of the world also went berserk, as if the void would collapse at any time. Little girl, are you still alive? At the same time, a huge black shadow appeared like a black sun, and a black beam of light swept out from the soul-stealing demonic qi. Woo-woo! Within the black beam of light, countless living beings wailed, as if they were carrying the world's resentment and killing intent as they charged down from the demonic realm. Wherever the black beam of light passed, the space trembled, and a pitch-black space swept out along with the demonic qi. The demonic qi was like thick ink floating in the void. It was deep and dark, and it made people shudder. When such two attacks were displayed in the void, all eyes trembled in an instant. All living beings shuddered. Such a vast and terrifying aura was terrifying. Under everyone's gaze, The starlight handprint and the demonic chi beam collided in the blink of an eye. Rumble. At the moment when the two collided, a muffled, thunderous sound suddenly resounded. The sound waves seemed to have materialized and crazily rippled. Energy ripples and runes spread out from the point of collision. The violent fluctuations shattered the space and stirred up this part of the world. Walala! The spatial ripples were like huge waves in the sea. The world was turned upside down, and the sky was shattered. The entire sky was trembling. Energy rushed into the sky, covering the sky. Large amounts of mountains collapsed, and rocks exploded. Cracks crisscrossed on the ground, like a spider web of cracks and ravines. All living beings fled, staying far away. At this moment, the place was in chaos. The cultivators at the domain realm felt their hair stand on end, and even the supreme geniuses were trembling in fear. Even some of the Saint Realm cultivators in the distance were dumbfounded. Their eyes trembled, and each of them was shocked. PFFDT, blood splattered in the void. In the center of the monstrous energy ripples, a beautiful figure staggered back. The starlight was scattered, and her hair fluttered. Oh no, the Moon Saint is injured. Chi Yeshi's face turned pale. The Moon Saint was injured in one move. Chi Yeshi, great ancestor Xing Hun, and the other disciples of the school of Yin Yang suddenly looked serious. Du Xiaofu's expression changed. The Moon Saint had resisted the three saints from the school of legalism, the school of vertical and horizontal, and the dragons. It was obvious that his strength was enough to surpass that of ordinary saints. But now, the Moon Saint was injured in one move, and it seemed that the injury was not light. Just how powerful was the attacker? It's him, the demonic emperor. Du Xiaofu sensed a familiar aura as he looked at the demonic aura that swept out. Back when he and Dongli Qingqing had gone to assist Master Flame's Park, the aura of the strongest demon king suppressed in the bottomless chasm was the same as before. However, it was much more powerful than before. Chapter 2066. Ji, Aoo. Just as the moon sage was about to retreat, a roar pierced through the clouds. A rain of ink-black runes shot into the sky, undulating above the void, revealing the mysteries of heaven and earth. A huge tortoise appeared in the sky, overlooking the mortal world. Golden light shot out in all directions. A golden-winged rock appeared, like a golden torrent hanging in the sky, covering the sky and the sun. It carried an incomparably domineering aura as it emitted a blazing light, spreading its ferocious aura. Seven-colored light descended, and a blazing aura filled the sky. A blazing phoenix spread its wings and covered the sky, emitting the aura of the supreme beast race. This was Xiangu, Jalobatian, and Feng Qi Saint. They had all transformed into their true forms. With such three supreme beast race experts in the sky, there was no longer any concealment of their aura. Such a terrifying aura caused the sky to tremble, causing the souls of all living beings to tremble and the demonic beasts to prostrate themselves. Demon, it's not that easy to enter. At the same time, in the depths of the void, 5 resplendent energy streams seemed to have descended from the 9 heavens. Finally, they intertwined and gathered into a sharp void sword, dazzling the world. Ancient runes rippled and intertwined as it traversed the sky. It's them. When such a sharp void sword descended from the sky, Du Xiaofu's eyes trembled. He had seen it with his own eyes before. It was the legendary East Deity, West Demon, and other supreme beast race experts. Chila. Such a sharp void sword seemed to have descended from ancient times, shattering the sky and attracting the attention of all living beings. At this moment, the 9th, 8th, and 7th Demon Emperor's expressions changed. East Deity, West Demon, South Ru, North Addict, Central Tongshan, you 5 juniors can no longer stop them. At this moment, a lifeless voice came from the depths of the sky. In an instant, demonic aura surged in the depths of the sky, and the evil aura was oppressive. Chila, a huge pitch-black claw stretched out, as if it was the most evil thing in the world. It was silent, but it caused all the evil aura in the world to gather at this moment, and the cries of ghosts and gods resounded in all directions. In an instant, it grabbed the void sword. Buzz buzz! The void sword erupted with countless resplendent sword rays, blazing and intertwining, as if the sun, the wind, and thunder were endless. Woo woo! Above the demonic claw, demonic chi raged. It was as if there were countless ferocious beasts, roaring and hissing. It was filled with a destructive aura. Even though no one had shown themselves, the scale of the battle was even more terrifying than the battle between Moon Saint and Moon Saint. Bang bang! The demonic claws and the sharp swords in the void interweaved. Wind and thunder roared. The dome of heaven turned upside down, and the pressure was shocking. Such might caused great waves to arise in the eyes of Jalobatian, Xiangu, and the other Saint Realm cultivators in the surroundings. The vast and mighty might seem to tear the entire sky apart. Sword light filled the sky, and ancient secret techniques and methods were densely packed. But in the end, it was still crushed by the demonic claw amidst the surging devil chi. Walala! The sword light in the void shattered, and the billowing demonic chi gradually disappeared into the depths of the firmament. The surroundings were deathly silent. All living beings felt their blood run cold, and their souls trembled. Such terrifying might shocked every single living being. All of them were dumbstruck, while their hearts trembled violently. It turned out that there was such a powerful existence in this world that surpassed ordinary Saint Realm cultivators. Du Xiaofu had already seen such a battle with his own eyes. Back then, the mysterious East Deity, West Demon, and other powerful cultivators had already made their moves. Beside Du Xiaofu, Dongfang Qingmu, Imo Tianxiao, Lin Qingrong, Jialo Jueyu, and the others were all dumbfounded. That terrifying might just now made these extraordinary supremes feel a deep sense of danger in the depths of their souls. That might just now was a kind of power that they couldn't touch at all. It was too terrifying. Everyone looked at the void in shock. The demonic chi dissipated along with the energy ripples and began to calm down. At the same time, in front of Jalobatian, Xiangu, and Saint Fengqi, a black figure stood quietly in the midst of the terrifying demonic chi that had attacked Moon Saint. His eyes were as black as two black holes in the void, and the scene of blood flowing and all living beings wailing could be seen. This black figure stood in the air, and his black hole-like eyes scanned the surroundings. Wherever his gaze passed, all living beings trembled, as if their souls were about to be sucked into that boundless and tragic black hole. Let's go. However, this black figure didn't attack again. After his gaze swept across the depths of the sky, he turned into a black pillar of light and shot directly into the entrance of the eternal tomb. The 9-demon emperor, Moksha, Jialo Jueyu, and the others followed closely behind and rushed into the entrance of the eternal tomb. Awoo! The demonic beasts and evil spirits roared as they stepped into the void tunnel. It was as if they had entered another world, and then they disappeared. They've entered the eternal tomb. The surrounding living beings recovered from their shock. Seeing that the people of the devil religion had entered the eternal tomb without any scruples, they looked at each other, and their eyes blazed again. Let's go in. It'll be too late if we don't go in now. Finally, some living beings couldn't take it anymore. They flew into the void and rushed towards the void tunnel entrance surrounded by stars. Swoosh, swoosh, in an instant, the entire place was stirred up. Living beings flew out from all directions, fighting to be the first. They no longer had any scruples. Looks like there shouldn't be any danger. Let's go in. Moon Saint wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at the entrance of the eternal tomb. His voice fell in the ears of the disciples of the school of Yin Yang, as well as those of the Huang country. Jalobatian, Xiangu, and Saint Fengqi withdrew their original forms and stood together with Moon Saint. Their expressions were solemn. Xiaofu, Kaling, Jueyu. Old Lady Jialo Maluo's eyes were solemn, and her expression was complicated. She said to Du Xiaofu, Jialo Kaling, and Jialo Jueyu, I saw Jueyu. I can feel that his aura is completely different. If you see him again, remember my words. If you can't persuade him to turn back, then, grandmother, we know what to do. Jueyu is just sulking. He still has hatred in his heart. Perhaps he will turn back. Jialo Kaling said to the old lady. Let's go. Be careful and act according to the situation, Du Xiaofu said. He waved his purple sleeve and raised his hand. He signaled for the disciples of the Huang country's World Society, Tianwu Academy, and Seven-Star Hall to set off. At the entrance of the Eternal Tomb, there were many experts from various forces personally guarding it. They were guiding and protecting their disciples as they entered the Eternal Tomb. Let's go. As Du Xiaofu's hand fell, the 18 celestial guards, Mo Tian Xiao, Dongfang Qingmu, Dugu Finchen, General, Dongli Jiao, and the others immediately flew out. Qi Yeshi, Huang Linger, Zi Xian, Dongli Qingqing, and the others followed closely behind. They stepped into the sky and flew towards the entrance of the Eternal Tomb. Chapter 2067. You have to be careful too. Du Tingshuan's voice rang in Du Xiaofu's ears. He appeared beside Du Xiaofu, holding Du Xiaohuang's hand. Waves of aura surged into the sky. This was a group of terrifying young supreme martial artists. Once they set out, they attracted everyone's attention and could not be ignored. Everyone from the desolate country, stay here. Suddenly, a thunderous shout rang out. Just as the group of young supreme martial artists from the desolate country were about to reach the entrance of the Eternal Tomb, a figure blocked their path. Behind him, there were thunderclouds. This figure stood upright, his hair fluttering in the wind. Dazzling electric arcs rippled around his body. The figure walked into the sky. It was an extremely young man who looked like he was in his 30s. His aura was extraordinary, and his battle robes rippled with electric arcs. He looked extraordinary. He also attacked without holding back. His hand seals had already condensed, and there was a strange energy that burst out from the void. Runes swept out and turned into dazzling electric arcs that drowned the void, erupting with endless power of thunder and lightning. Terrifying electric arcs surged towards Mo Tianxiao, Lin Qingrong, Dongfang Qingmu, Ming Yao, Dugu Finchen, Jialo Jueyu, Yi Piaoling, and the rest of the 18 celestial guards. Rumble. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Lightning exploded in the sky, and its power surged. It was incomparably terrifying, drowning everything in front of it. Although this change happened quickly, Dongfang Qingmu, Yi Piaoling, Mo Tianxiao, Jialo Jueyu, and the rest had been on guard for this sudden crisis. Hence, they reacted immediately, and each of them quickly activated their own techniques. Runes rushed into the sky, and their auras surged into the sky. Bang, 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 everyone resisted the electric arcs. Sparks flew when they came into contact with them, and many spatial cracks were torn open. Buzz, buzz. The electric arcs were dazzling and very strange. Some people's hair was cut off, some people's defenses were torn, and some people's clothes were torn, almost injuring their bodies. Some of the weaker ones were slightly injured and were affected by the electric arcs. Sacred Array Child Jin Qingchun activated the Xian Divine Pagoda in his hand, and a bloody light burst out. However, he was still blasted far away, and a muffled groan came from his throat. Clearly, he was at a disadvantage. The group of supreme martial artists were defending themselves, but they were still in a sorry state in front of the person who stopped them. Their expressions changed. In the sky, the god's heaven's god were his battle armor, his armor rippling with electric arcs. His eyes were resplendent. Xiang Wushuang's, he's attacking the desolate country's people. Xiang to Wushuang Wushuang. Xiang Wushuang's Wang. Is. The people in the sky twos to stop. Xiang Wushuang was a terrifying supreme being. He was known to be invincible among his peers. Now that he had set his sights on the desolate country, it meant that a great battle was unavoidable. Xiang Wushuang's hair hung loosely over his shoulders, and he stood there quietly, emanating an aura that could shake the hearts and souls of all the heroes present in the area. Xiang 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 Xiang. Mo Tianxiao, Lin Qingrong, Jialo Jueyu, Underworld Demon, Yelu Han, and the other supreme beings stabilized their bodies as they stood in the void. Their bodies became sparkling and translucent. Radiance surrounded their bodies, releasing a terrifying aura. Mo Tianxiao, Yi Piaoling, Nether Demon, Lian Qingrong, Jialo Jueyu, Feng Han, and the rest of the paragons were proud and arrogant to begin with. How could they endure being forced back by Xiang Wushuang? Rumble. In an instant, waves of energy soared into the sky. The supreme martial artist's eyes flickered with cold light. Even though they knew Xiang Wushuang was not simple, they did not intend to back down. This group of auras was too vast. The creatures in the surroundings were all alarmed. A great battle was about to unfold. The desolate country's people are not people you can touch. At this moment, a young man in golden robes appeared in front of Tianxiao, Lian Qingrong, Jialo Jueliao, and the others. His facial features were as handsome as if they had been carved by a knife. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile. Who else could it be other than Du Xiaoyao? Are you a demonic spirit or a beast? Who are you? Xiang Wushuang could sense Du Xiaoyao's aura. It was complex, but it made him tremble. Other than when he had fought against the true saints earlier, he had not felt this way in a long time. He did not dare to underestimate this person. Remember, I'm Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaoyao said. His golden hair fell to his shoulders, and under his thick eyebrows, a pair of resplendent golden eyes shone. Redbone horse monkey Du Xiaoyao. Xiang Wushuang had heard of Du Xiaoyao before. He stared fixedly at him, and in the blink of an eye, his eyes flashed with lightning. His hair was covered in arcs of electricity, and his battle intent surged. Several thousand years ago, he had swept through his peers. Even the supreme martial artists and geniuses from the 9 great clans were not his match. Among those of the same generation, he was an existence that no one could surpass. Even the experts of the older generation found it difficult to go against him. In the end, Xiang Wushuang challenged all of his peers and disappeared without a trace. There were many legends about him. Some said that he had suffered cultivation deviation, while others said that he had perished. However, no one knew that when he was at the peak of his glory, he had chosen to enter secluded cultivation in order to find the path to becoming the strongest member of the primeval thunder mammoths. He had been waiting for the opening of the heavenly devil battlefield. Even when the divine domain opened, he had not been moved. What kind of perseverance was this? Now, Xiang Wushuang had returned to the world. Over the past several thousand years, he had become many times stronger than before. He had swept through all the paragons in the heavenly devil battlefield and was invincible. The name of the primeval lightning mammoths once again spread throughout the world. It was at this time that Xiang Wushuang heard the name of the demon king, Du Xiaofu. It was said that he was a young man with heaven-defying talent. At first, he had not been moved, but when he heard that several half-step true saints had died, he was truly moved, and his battle intent was ignited. Other than that, he had also heard of the names of Moksha, Redbone Horse Monkey Du Xiaoyao, Violet, Star Devil Dragon Emperor Little Star, and Devil Rock Jialo Jueliao. It was said that they were all terrifying young supreme martial artists who far surpassed their peers. Then I'll defeat you first. I've challenged many of my peers before, and I've also challenged many of my predecessors. You're far stronger than your peers, so I won't be bullying you. Eyes blazing with battle intent, Xiang Wushuang's body pulsed with the power of lightning, and his battle intent surged. Xiang Wushuang didn't say anything. He raised his arm and punched out at Du Xiaoyao. Boom! The punch was clean and efficient, and it was accompanied by deafening thunder. Arcs of lightning covered half the sky, and it caused the eyes of all living beings to tremble as it arrived in front of Du Xiaoyao in the blink of an eye. Xiang Wushuang was a transcendent, and he looked down on his peers and peers. The two of them were not far apart, and his fist was wrapped in lightning, and it was about to reach Du Xiaoyao's face. Chapter 2068. Oomph! Little demon Du let out a deep snort. Golden light flashed in his golden spirit eyes, and he directly blocked the attack with a punch. Tianxiao, Dongfang Qingmu, Nether Demon, Dugu Fenchen, and Jialo Jueyu retreated when they saw Du Xiaoyao's attack. They knew very well that Du Xiaoyao was stronger than them. With Du Xiaoyao attacking, it was naturally better than them. Du Xiaoyao's punch exploded with dazzling golden light and a terrifying aura. It was as though it could crush everything in its path. Buzz! The two fists collided, causing the void to tremble. A soul-shaking sound of wind and thunder reverberated in the void. Golden light and electric arcs bloomed like rainbows. The collision of the two fists seemed to be able to shatter the universe. Pieces of space seemed to have materialized and shattered. The sound of wind and thunder was deafening. Chi. Under many gazes, Xiang Wushuang retreated in a straight line. The electric arcs behind him shattered the void, and he only managed to stabilize his body after several dozen feet. On the other hand, Du Xiaoyao only took a single step back in the void. Her hair and golden robes fluttered in the wind. This scene shocked many people. They were dumbfounded. Many elders knew how strong Xiang Wushuang was. Back then, he had swept through his peers and defeated many elders. He had an undefeated record and was a terrifying supreme being. But now, he was suppressed by Du Xiaoyao with a single punch. Some people were also shocked by Xiang Wushuang's strength. Many people had witnessed Du Xiaoyao's strength. He had killed 2 experts of the semi-sage realm. Moreover, he had been besieged by 2 experts of the semi-sage realm at the same time. However, Xiang Wushuang had only been pushed back. This also proved his terrifying strength. She's really strong. Dongfang Qingmu, Jialo Jueyu, and Imo Tianxiao exclaimed. They knew how strong Du Xiaoyao was. Xiang Wushuang was only pushed back by a single punch. This was also a form of strength in disguise. At this moment, Xiang Wushuang was even more shocked. His fist ached and his arm was numb. Xiang Wushuang was shocked. The rumored redbone horse monkey was indeed powerful, as expected of someone who had killed more than a half-step saint. His reputation was well-deserved, and he was unimaginably strong. He was the strongest opponent Xiang Wushuang had encountered so far. Ignoring everything else, Du Xiaoyao's terrifying strength was already incomparably terrifying. His immemorial thunder elephant's body was enough to be on par with the golden-winged Great Peng, but he had just felt pain and suffered a hidden loss. Not bad. Du Xiaoyao was shocked. His punch had actually been blocked by the other party. In his opinion, even a half-saint would find it difficult to receive his punch so easily. If it was a peak domain realm cultivator, even if it was a peak indestructible realm cultivator, he would have been sent flying. Let me do it. I've long found this guy an eyesore. Du Xiaoyao was just about to attack again when a slightly immature voice sounded out, and Starry Star's tiny figure had already appeared by his side. At the same time that he spoke, profound energy rippled beneath his feet, and his tiny figure flashed out like a bolt of lightning. You're the purple star demonic dragon emperor. Xiang Wushuang narrowed his eyes in astonishment when he saw the tiny figure approaching him like a bolt of lightning. As he spoke, a vast amount of profound energy surged out of his body. His battle robe was covered in dazzling arcs of electricity. That's right. It's me, your elder sister. Little Xingxing snorted coldly. She arrived in front of Xiang Wushuang in an instant. She formed a seal with her tiny fist covered in golden flames. If one looked closely, one would notice that pitch-black spatial cracks were arcing around her fist. This tiny punch caused Xiang Wushuang to feel an extreme sense of danger from the depths of his heart. The hair on his body stood on end. 10,000 elephant seal. Xiang Wushuang no longer dared to be careless as he hovered in midair. With a deep shout, the profound energy around him gathered madly together with the energy of heaven and earth, forming a seal that sounded like the trumpeting of giant elephants. Roar! In an instant, Xiang Wushuang erupted with power. The 10,000 elephants seal in his hand blasted out. It was like a divine elephant had been reborn. The 10,000 elephant seal is a terrifying technique of the ancient thunder elephants. It's rumored that it can subdue dragons and tigers. Someone gasped. Such a technique would cause the souls of living beings to tremble. Many experts gasped as well. At this moment, many people who didn't know Xiang Wushuang well realized that he was a terrifying supreme being. He was indeed stronger than many supreme beings from the 9 great clans. He could look down on all heroes and sweep through all directions. The fist seal was like an elephant, constantly changing. As Xiang Wushuang blasted out, it was like a huge mountain had suddenly crashed down, trying to crush little Xingxing's tiny figure. The speed was too fast. In an instant, the two collided. Little Xingxing's figure appeared very small in front of the giant elephant seal. Everyone couldn't help but be on edge and secretly hold their breaths. So what if you're big, flashy but impractical? While everyone was still in shock, a childish voice with a hint of coldness spread through the void. Not good. At this moment, Xiang Wushuang seemed to have sensed something. His expression darkened, and the profound energy in his body surged as if he wanted to retreat. However, before Xiang Wushuang could retreat, a blazing heat suddenly spread out from little Xingxing's small golden fist. It was like a surging tide, causing the energy of heaven and earth to go berserk. Roar! Golden flames erupted, and mist surged, emitting a dazzling light. A dragon's roar resounded through the ancient world. This dragon's roar contained the might of a true dragon. It caused all living beings to tremble, and their souls to tremble. The phantom of a giant dragon rushed out from little Xingxing's small fist, wrapped in golden flames, its 5 claws forming clouds. A true dragon's roar filled the sky with golden flames. The might of a dragon was awe-inspiring. The phantom of a dragon was enough to shock people. No one had ever felt such a dense dragon's might. It was as if a true dragon had descended. Roar, roar. The sound waves were sonorous, and the dragon's roar and elephant's cry were unbearable. Their eardrums felt like they were about to burst. When the phantom of a giant elephant and the dragon collided, dazzling light bloomed intensely. The terrifying power shattered the void and tore the firmament apart. Then, before everyone's eyes, the dragon and elephant phantoms dissipated. Xiang Wushuang's palm and little Xingxing's fist collided. This was the most direct collision. All kinds of mysterious runes appeared, shining brilliantly before being obliterated. Crackle! Xiang Wushuang was blasted back again. His figure retreated in the void, and electric arcs rippled. Chapter 2069. Thump, thump. Little Xingxing took 2 steps back from the impact. Her small fists trembled, and golden flames flickered in her eyes. Her dress fluttered as if there were stars swirling around her. She was very beautiful and cute. She looked harmless to humans and animals. However, none of the living beings present saw it that way. How could a little girl who could force Xiang Wushuang back be described as harmless to both humans and animals? She was clearly terrifying. Xiang Wushuang's eyes trembled. Even someone as powerful as him felt his arms and fists go numb. It was rumored that the purple-starred demonic dragon emperor's true form was a mysterious dragon. Despite his young age, he was strong enough to look down on paragons. He had already killed half-saints. Oomph! Xiang Wushuang let out a muffled groan. His face paled as he forced himself not to be pushed back further. He steadied himself and stood in the air. Not far away, there were some figures standing. The one in the lead was an extremely elegant woman. On her purple pleated skirt, there were a few lotus flowers in full bloom that swayed along with the hem of her skirt. They seemed to emit a hazy glow, and they appeared to be extremely ethereal and graceful. It was breathtaking. She looked at little Xingxing and Xiang Wushuang with sparkling eyes, her gaze flickering. She had a good understanding of Xiang Wushuang's strength. This exchange of blows made her realize how terrifying the purple-starred demonic dragon emperor was. On the other side, Dongfang Qingmu, Mo Tianxiao, and the others raised their eyebrows. They were shocked by Xiang Wushuang's strength. Being able to withstand Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing's attacks was a testament to his strength. These 2 attacks shocked and affected many living beings. Terrifying energy waves swept out, blocking a large portion of the path to the eternal tomb. No one dared to force their way in. The shockwaves weren't something ordinary people could withstand. You guys go in first. Leave this to me. Du Xiaofu stepped forward, appearing next to Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing. He waved his hand, his gaze fixed on Xiang Wushuang. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was re-evaluating Xiang Wushuang. To be able to withstand Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing's attacks, Du Xiaofu had no choice but to take him seriously. Du Xiaofu knew Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing's strength the best. Not long ago, they had been able to kill 2 half-saints. Recently, they had improved a lot in the desolate ancient space. They were probably close to the Saint Realm, unrivaled under the Saint Realm. It was unlikely that there was anyone below the Saint realm who could contend with Du Xiaoyao and little Xingxing. Although Xiang Wushuang seemed to be in a bit of a difficult situation, he was actually able to fight back. Du Xiaofu could not afford to underestimate such an opponent. Good. When Du, Xingxing, and Jialo, Jueyujiao, and the Jujueyu Jialo, and Jialo Nishu, and the Star Ants Tuz Nilu and Lucas. Let's go. Dongli Qingqing, Qi Yeshi, Ouyang Shuang, Sumushin, and the others' eyes flickered as they left with Du Xiaoyao. They knew that they couldn't be of any help. Du Xiaofu shouldn't be at a disadvantage, and Jialo Batian, Moon Sage, and Xian Gu were there. There was nothing for them to worry about. Swoosh, swoosh. The desolate country's supreme geniuses left in arcs in the air. Xiang Wushuang didn't stop them. He just stared at Du Xiaofu. Xiang Wushuang and the Demon King Du Xiaofu are going to fight. The Eternal Tomb was opening, and Xiang Wushuang and the Demon King Du Xiaofu were facing off halfway. This made many people feel conflicted. It was rare to see such a fight, but they wanted to enter the Eternal Tomb as soon as possible. Du Xiaofu didn't waste any time, nor did he want to. He stood in the air, his purple robes and long hair fluttering in the wind, exuding a sense of confidence. He didn't fear anyone below the Saint realm. This was Du Xiaofu's confidence. If you want to fight me, I'll grant you your wish. I'll let you make the first move. Otherwise, you won't even have the chance to attack, Du Xiaofu said, looking at Xiang Wushuang. Du Xiaofu's words caused many people's expressions to change. Even the elegant and peerless woman was moved. His words were very conceited. He didn't put Xiang Wushuang in his eyes. Du Xiaofu, you're too conceited. Xiang Wushuang stared at Du Xiaofu. It wasn't difficult for him to figure out Du Xiaofu's identity. He had suffered 2 losses just now because he was careless and caught off guard. He had been in seclusion for thousands of years. This time, he wanted to shine again, but he had been stopped. He was feeling depressed. This isn't conceit, it's confidence. If it weren't for the elders behind you, I would have taken you as my mount if you dared to touch a disciple of my desolate nation, Du Xiaofu said, his voice a bit sharper. How domineering. The people in the air sighed inwardly. The Demon King Du Xiaofu was protecting his calf. Anyone who dared to touch someone from the desolate nation would face terrible consequences. Legalism, the school of vertical and horizontal, the dragons, and the like were all examples. Now, he was threatening to take Xiang Wushuang as his mount. You're the first person who dares to speak to me like this. Xiang Wushuang wasn't angry. Instead, he calmly looked at Du Xiaofu. Arcs of electricity covered his battle robes, and a disdainful smile appeared on his face. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiang Wushuang slowly walked towards Du Xiaofu. Arcs of electricity rippled under his feet. Every step he took left a footprint in the void, causing the void to tremble in a strange and mysterious rhythm. Elephants have no form, but Xiang Wushuang is extraordinary. That old man has a good descendant. High up in the void, Jialo Batian stood with his hands behind his back. As Xiang Wushuang stepped forward, a golden light flashed in his eyes. He couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Rumble. As Xiang Wushuang stepped forward, the void beneath his feet emitted a sonorous sound, as though it resonated with heaven and earth. With every step he took, Xiang Wushuang's aura surged. The arcs of electricity wrapped around his battle robes also became more intense and resplendent. PFFF, not far away, some of the weaker creatures suddenly coughed up blood. They couldn't resist the strange energy fluctuations caused by Xiang Wushuang. Not good. He's too strong. Run. Many people were shocked, and their faces turned pale. The demonic beasts fled, and the birds flapped their wings and flew away. Xiang Wushuang was too strong. He only took a few steps, and they couldn't resist. This was a formless and powerful momentum. Interesting. Du Xiaofu's lips curled into a faint smile, but inwardly, he was very surprised. Xiang Wushuang wasn't simple at all. He brought with him a formless and terrifying momentum, as though the power of 10,000 elephants was surging, invincible and ferocious. Elephants have no form. I have to say, among the younger generation, you're the one I pay the most attention to. But today, I'll let you know that there's always someone stronger than you. Xiang Wushuang was as calm as ever as he continued walking towards Du Xiaofu. His steps were slow and carried a mysterious rhythm. His aura surged, and the arcs of electricity grew more resplendent, like a heavenly drum being hammered. In the end, the resplendent arcs of electricity enveloped Du Xiaofu. Chapter 2070. Boom. It seemed slow, but it was also extremely fast. When Xiang Wushuang took the sixth step, his eyes immediately closed, and a surging aura surged out like a detonated thunderbolt, accompanied by flashes of lightning and rolls of thunder. Rumble. A terrifying aura swept across the sky like thunder. At the same time, an ancient armor covered Xiang Wushuang's battle robe, dazzling with electric arcs. Sizzle. Xiang Wushuang opened his eyes again. His pupils were filled with dazzling arcs of lightning, as if they contained a dazzling ball of lightning. A lightning pressure that made one's divine soul tremble spread across the sky. At this moment, Xiang Wushuang no longer concealed his aura. It climbed to the peak, and his profound qi, along with the energy of heaven and earth, formed a storm of electric arcs with him as the center, erupting in an instant. Rumble. Lightning flashed and thunder roared, and pitch-black spatial cracks spread into the distance. It made one's hair stand on end. The atmosphere in the field suddenly became tense and solidified. A quasi-sage. Xiang Wushuang has reached the quasi-holy land step. Oh my God! Xiang Wushuang has reached the quasi-holy land step. An old man couldn't help but exclaim. At this moment, Xiang Wushuang's aura, which was extremely close to the true saint realm, stunned everyone present. Old Xiang has really produced a terrifying junior. Saint Feng Qi's eyes were also filled with amazement. A junior like Xiang Wushuang was too extraordinary. He could look down on all heroes. Du Xiaofu stood in the sky, facing the lightning storm that was almost right in front of him. His body seemed to be stuck in the void, and no matter how the energy storm swept over him, he was as still as a rock. His hair and purple robe were still fluttering. The profound of thunder and lightning is already at the quasi-sage level. Xiang Wushuang's strength made Du Xiaofu narrow his eyes. As a cultivator of the profound of thunder and lightning, with the thunder martial vein, Du Xiaofu could clearly sense that Xiang Wushuang's comprehension of the profound of thunder and lightning had reached an extremely high level. He was also at the quasi-sage level. It was no wonder that he could withstand Du Xiaoyao and Little Xingxing's attacks. Xiang Wushuang's talent and the prestige of the immemorial Thunder Elephant clan were not to be underestimated. There's also a type of spiritual thunder. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu's narrowed eyes widened, and he stared at the energy storm. In the storm of lightning and thunder, the thunder martial vein in Du Xiaofu's body reacted, and he felt the aura of spiritual thunder. Du Xiaofu was especially sensitive to spiritual thunder, because spiritual thunder could make him stronger. Spiritual thunder was also related to the mysterious thunder martial vein of the Du family. Du Xiaofu finally understood why Xiang Wushuang was able to dominate his peers back then. He cultivated the profound meaning of lightning, and his true form was an immemorial lightning elephant. Moreover, he also possessed a spirit lightning. With all these factors combined in his body, his combat strength was naturally incomparable to ordinary people. It was likely that he would find it difficult to be a match for those at the same level. He definitely had the ability to challenge those at a higher level. Interesting. Du Xiaofu was not afraid or worried. Xiang Wushuang was undoubtedly strong, but he did not have any trump cards. Kid, make your move. As a junior, you are too conceited. For the sake of the golden-winged Great Peng clan, I will only break your bones today. Xiang Wushuang's voice rumbled like thunder, causing ripples to appear in the storm of energy. Oh! A deafening roar reverberated. The divine elephant trumpeted, and the sound waves surged to the sky. The energy ripples and runes flashed as the sound waves swept towards Du Xiaofu. This type of roar sounded, the void exploding, the sound waves shaking everyone's souls. Many creatures covered their ears, their faces pale, their expressions pained. He has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. Feeling the power of the sound waves, Du Xiaofu's eyes flashed with surprise. The sound waves were mixed with terrifying martial intent and battle intent. It should be the innate ability of the immemorial Thunder Elephant clan that had fused with Xiang Wushuang's battle intent to form such a terrifying soundwave attack. At the same time, Du Xiaofu's purple robe fluttered, and his hair and robes fluttered. He also let out a loud roar. Elwo! 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 His roar was like the roar of a dragon and the trumpeting of a divine elephant. Countless echoes reverberated in the sky, and the momentum was incomparably domineering. It was like a chain of thunder from the 9 heavens that reverberated throughout the world. The ancient heaven and earth trembled violently, and the entire void rumbled. The two sound waves collided in an instant, creating a strange sound of wind and thunder. It was like the rumbling of heavenly thunder. Walala! The materialized sound waves spread out in all directions like a tidal wave, and the vibrations caused the space to distort violently. The mountains below crumbled, and the earth cracked. The void crumbled inch by inch. The sound waves were so powerful that some unlucky creatures fell directly from the sky. Puff! Puff! Some people vomited blood, and some ferocious birds and demonic beasts were on the verge of collapse. Their hearts trembled in fear. Chila! In the void, a storm of energy swept over, and Xiang Wushuang's figure pounced out of it. He swooped down in the middle of the materialized sound waves. Behind him, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. He formed a hand seal, and a dazzling curtain of light fell down. Myriad manifestations of the world, myriad annihilation fist. Xiang Wushuang's cold voice rang in Du Xiaofu's ears. A fist seal blasted out from within the dazzling light. Before the fist seal, the void crumbled. Myriad manifestations of the world appeared in the sky, and the vast momentum was unstoppable. Looking at the mighty power of the fist, Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered with a hint of surprise. If this fist seal were to appear in the outside world, it would probably be enough to easily destroy an entire country. Come, let's see who will break whose bones. However, Du Xiaofu was not afraid at all. With a loud laugh, he took a step forward. His hand seals had already condensed at the same time. Several hand seals condensed into a seal in an instant, turning into a colorful and gorgeous hand seal. This was the primordial Yellow Emperor's seal. With Du Xiaofu's current level of cultivation and proficiency, it was no longer strenuous for him to condense the primordial Yellow Emperor's seal, and its power had increased exponentially. Buzz! Du Xiaofu's primordial Yellow Emperor's seal took shape and collided with Xiang Wushuang's punch. Xiang Wushuang was confident in his myriad annihilation fist. The limitless annihilation fist was one of Mammoth Wushuang's trump cards, and it was impossible to say how many Paragon Chosen had been defeated by it. Under the horrified gazes of the crowd, the fist and the palm collided with each other. It was like two meteorites colliding with each other. Terrifying energy ripples swept out like huge waves. An earth-shattering, muffled sound of energy suddenly resounded in the ancient void. Bang! Bang! Runes shot out as the myriad annihilation fist and the primordial Yellow Emperor's seal faced each other, erupting with terrifying energy that eroded and devoured each other. At the center of the void where the two collided, a black hole appeared. The dark and profound light made one's hair stand on end, and a chill ran down one's spine. The myriad annihilation fist, myriad manifestations, could destroy everything. It gradually enveloped Du Xiaofu's primordial Yellow Emperor's seal and erupted with a terrifying devouring power. The surrounding void was instantly torn apart, and everything was sucked into it and annihilated. Is that all? You don't live up to your name. Xiang Wushuang said proudly and confidently. As you wish, the primordial Yellow Emperor's seal shall suppress all living beings. Bang! These words left Du Xiaofu's mouth. In an instant, the primordial Yellow Emperor's seal, which seemed to be on the verge of dimming, suddenly became resplendent again. A violent and domineering energy was released, and the roars of dragons, tigers, birds, and tortoises could be heard. The azure dragon, white tiger, phoenix, black tortoise, and black tortoise appeared from the primordial Yellow Emperor's seal. The tiger roared, the bird roared, and the tortoise cried. The majestic pressure caused heaven and earth to tremble. Awoo! The four beasts roared, and a terrifying aura erupted from them. With a momentum that could suppress all living beings, they directly shattered the myriad annihilation fist. The four beasts were annihilated, and they disappeared into the void at the same time. Chi! Xiang Wushuang staggered back, and the energy storm dissipated. His eyes were filled with shock, and a trace of seriousness flashed through them. As he retreated, earth-shattering arcs of lightning surged out from his body. At the same time, his body suddenly expanded, and in the blink of an eye, he turned into a giant elephant that was thousands of meters tall. He stood in the void, and monstrous lightning filled the air. It was as if a divine elephant had descended. 10,000 mammoths renewal, leveling wind and thunder. 10,000 mammoths tempest kick. In his true form, Xiang Wushuang's primordial thunder mammoth roared at the sky. As the divine elephant trumpeted, endless lightning suddenly erupted from his body. It was grayish-white in color, and it howled like a gale. It carried with it a destructive force that filled the sky. Dazzling light shuttled back and forth, and combined with his profound energy and the might of the primordial thunder mammoths, it condensed on his left foot in the blink of an eye. Rumble. In an instant, Xiang Wushuang's pillar-like foot was covered in lightning runes, and a destructive force surged out. Muffled thunder resounded in the sky. As he stomped down, it was as if he had fallen from the sky, crossing the sky. Wherever his foot passed, the space shattered inch by inch, and the mountains and rivers below crumbled. The nature thunder scripture is the primordial thunder mammoth signature move. Now, Xiang Wushuang has even fused with a type of spiritual thunder. He is indeed a genius, Moon Saint said. Her figure was hazy, and her face was pale. Her eyes were filled with surprise. Xiang Wushuang's strength had moved even her. As the terrifying foot stomped down, Du Xiaofu's eyes were no longer calm. There were some fluctuations in them, and the aura around him suddenly changed, becoming violent. The sky suddenly changed color, and a mysterious force descended from the void, causing raging waves in an instant. Boom! Boom! In an instant, Du Xiaofu's figure disappeared, and he was replaced by a giant that was hundreds of meters tall. The hundreds of meters were pure height. Although it was still smaller than the primordial thunder mammoth that was thousands of meters tall, it was not much smaller. Its entire body emitted a misty mist, as if millions of mountains had fallen from the sky. It seemed to have come from ancient times, and the surging sorcerer's power came from ancient times. That is the ancient sorcerer's power of the Confucian school. Everyone present trembled. That huge body made people feel as if their hearts were about to explode, and they almost went limp. Rumble! Rumble! Du Xiaofu's sorcerer's body condensed. He waved his hand, and it was as if his hand was holding up the sky. Chapter 2071. It was a heaven-supporting seal, filled with magical symbols, and was like a flash flood. Rumbling sounds could be heard, and wherever it passed, space would explode as the power of the sorcerer god slammed into Xiang Wushuang's terrifying foot. Ruyuamble. Lightning flashed and thunder boomed as Xiang Wushuang's foot stomped down. The power of 10,000 mammoths surged, crushing the void and sending destructive spirit lightning into Du Xiaofu's palm. Du Xiaofu was shocked. That kick of Xiang Wushuang's contained a terrifying profundity that seemed capable of obliterating everything. It was boundless, mysterious, and unfathomable. You. The power of the ancient sorcerer god erupted. Around Du Xiaofu's sorcerer god body, it was as if there were countless gods and demons chanting. No matter how terrifying the kick was, it held Du Xiaofu in midair, unable to move an inch further. Rumble. At the same time, within Du Xiaofu's body, a supreme aura suppressed the heavens and the earth. The body of the shaman god was covered with mysterious purple talisman runes. His aura was murderous in all directions, causing the heavens and earth to tremble and shake to the soul. Mammoth Wushuang's eyes flickered as he realized that his spirit lightning wasn't doing anything to Devil King Du Xiaofu. Instead, it was being devoured by the terrifying lightning power inside of Du Xiaofu, making it almost impossible to defend against. The power of the lightning came from Xiang Wushuang's mysterious martial veins, and it caused his spirit lightning to tremble uncontrollably. It was a terrifying sensation. Xiang Wushuang didn't want to waste any more time. He couldn't afford to waste any more time. Dazzling arcs of lightning surrounded his body. His profound energy surged violently along with the energy of heaven and earth. His cultivation base was at the level of a quasi-saint. Ruyuambul. Heavenly music filled the air as 9 divine halos appeared above Xiang Wushuang's enormous primeval lightning mammoth. The nirvanic power of a grand paragon descended. The sonorous sounds of the heavens struck the souls of all living beings, and the might of the heavens swept out and surged in all directions. Next, Xiang Wushuang's gigantic primordial thunder mammoth body became different from before. An ancient pressure rose from him like an erupting volcano, shaking the heavens. Arcs of electricity condensed around his body to form a huge lightning armor that covered his entire body. Behind him, the 9 wheels of nirvanic power burned as they fused with Mammoth Wushuang, swirling around him in an incomparably dazzling fashion. Light and electric arcs intertwined, creating strange phenomena in the sky. Thunder is angry and lightning is furious, incomparable to an elephant. This is the archaic thunder elephant race's all-elephant body. In the distance, Xian Gu's voice was no longer calm, and it began to fluctuate intensely. The 10,000 mammoths body is incomparable to the 10,000 mammoths. The fury of thunder and the fury of lightning can suppress the 8 desolations. Saint Feng Qi's face trembled slightly as he spoke. Even the Phoenix clan had to be wary of the all-creation physique. Since ancient times, it was said that the primeval lightning mammoths that were capable of condensing the myriad mammoth physique were extremely rare. There had been legends about the all-creation physique, but they were too ancient to exist in the present age. But now, this primeval lightning mammoth had condensed the all-creation physique, shocking the world. Mammoth Wushuang was an existence that transcended worldliness. Rumble, around Xiang Wushuang's gigantic primeval lightning mammoth body, the light flickered and flickered. Strange phenomena changed, and the terrifying might cause some experts to lose their footing and sway in midair. "Let's end this," Xiang Wushuang said, his voice like thunder, shaking heaven and earth. Unparalleled power descended. Boom. When Xiang Wushuang's foot landed on Du Xiaofu's palm, the power behind it increased exponentially. Accompanied by the power of a grand paragon and the all-creation physique, it turned into layers of light that pressed down on Du Xiaofu. The terrifying layers of light were like layers of a world. Every time a layer fell, the void rumbled, as if it wanted to crush the heavens. Everyone's hair stood on end, their hearts trembling in fear as they witnessed Xiang Wushuang's terrifying strength. Du Xiaofu's hair fluttered in the wind as he suffered a great pressure. Very strong. Du Xiaofu looked up, secretly shocked. If they were at the same level, Xiang Wushuang would definitely be on par with Moksha. He was terrifyingly strong. There was always a sky beyond a sky, and a person beyond a person. Xiang Wushuang's appearance made Du Xiaofu understand the meaning of this saying. There were still many powerful existences hidden in this world. Du Xiaofu stood in the void. The huge sorcerer god's palm drooped down. The thunder martial vein in his body could no longer devour the power of spiritual thunder. At this moment, Xiang Wushuang was so strong that it seemed like he could suppress everything. However, no matter how strong he is, he still hasn't stepped into the true saint realm. A quasi-saint is nothing. However, Du Xiaofu was still fearless and confident. The Demon King is really domineering and arrogant. Everyone's eyes widened and their jaws dropped. Xiang Wushuang had shown such extraordinary strength, and now he had the upper hand. And yet, the Demon King was still so confident. "Huh!" someone exclaimed. Everyone looked over and saw the Demon King and Du Xiaofu's body ripple. His eyes shone brightly, as if divine light were surging. From Du Xiaofu's raised palm, within the power of the ancient sorcerer, rays of light suddenly burst out in a ring around the elephant's foot, and a vast pressure quietly revealed itself. The image of the 8 trigrams appeared in Du Xiaofu's palm, within which there were lightning, stars, rolling flames, and moving mountains and lakes. This was the profound meaning of the 8 trigrams that Du Xiaofu had comprehended, condensed into a seal, and used. In an instant, it blocked the intensifying pressure of the elephant's foot. Rumble. When the foot collided, a muffled sound resounded, and a ring of black spatial cracks spread out in the void. Under the elephant's foot, runes poured down like a rain of light, and all kinds of strange phenomena appeared, and the shadows of beasts roared. At the same time, behind Du Xiaofu's sorcerer divine body, golden light suddenly burst out, and golden talisman runes erupted. Du Xiaofu's real golden wings spread out behind his back, and an indescribable Dao aura was exuding from his body. His aura was monstrous, and golden light shone brightly. He flapped his wings and soared through the sky. In an instant, Du Xiaofu seemed to have transformed into a true golden-winged rock, and he intended to soar into the sky and soar through the sky. Du Xiaofu's eyes flashed coldly, and the lightning martial vein in his body was activated, covering the golden wings behind his back. In an instant, the golden wings turned purple gold, and when they flapped, they were like clouds in the sky. The lightning martial vein covered the golden wings, and the domineering will and supreme execution condensed. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's sorcerer divine body stood tall, and it was as if the real demon king had descended, dazzling the world. Xiang Wushuang seemed to have sensed something and wanted to retreat, but his expression changed. At this time, Xiang Wushuang was surprised to find that his foot had been restrained by the strange power in Du Xiaofu's palm. It was as if he had been wrapped up and couldn't escape. Qila. Du Xiaofu was fast to the extreme, and with a flap of his wings, the lightning martial vein and golden wings combined, he attacked with all his strength. Even he himself could feel that the divine gate in his body was greatly exhausted, and his right wing slammed down like a cloud in the sky. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, and purple lightning flashed. Golden light shone brightly, carrying the domineering will of the golden-winged rock race. The rock struck the sky, and a large area of pitch-black spatial cracks exploded. Pucci. Blood sprayed out of Xiang Wushuang's mouth as his fleshly body was sent tumbling backward. Du Xiaofu followed closely, and the 8 trigrams image in his palm clenched tightly. He punched out, and with the roar of a dragon and the trumpeting of an elephant, it landed on Xiang Wushuang's back with unparalleled momentum. Crack, crack. The lightning arcs on Xiang Wushuang's body shattered, and his armor cracked. His skin and flesh were lacerated, and cracking sounds could be heard. It was obvious that several bones were broken. At the same time, Xiang Wushuang's gigantic lightning mammoth body was sent flying backward. He slammed into the crumbling mountain peak below. Bang! Bang! The earth quaked, and the mountains trembled. The huge impact turned the mountain into dust, and the cracks on the ground spread into the distance. Everyone was shocked. Many people had seen Du Xiaofu punch Xiang Wushuang's skin and flesh open and send him flying. The exchange just now had only lasted for an instant, but both of them had used all kinds of methods to display the might of Supremes. Xiang Wushuang lost. The living beings trembled. The more they knew how strong Xiang Wushuang was, the more shocked they were. The Demon King was so strong, and yet Xiang Wushuang, a quasi-saint, had lost so easily. This kind of battle had exceeded everyone's expectations. The two of them are so strong. Many of the living beings trembled, and their blood surged. Whether it was the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, or the defeated Xiang Wushuang, they represented the strongest battle prowess under the true saint realm, and they were fascinated. Rumble. On the ground, Xiang Wushuang shook off the dust on his body and rose to his feet. There was a huge crater in the ground, and blood was oozing out of his body. Du Xiaofu's punch had torn his skin and flesh open. Looking up at Du Xiaofu, Xiang Wushuang's lightning eyes rippled. With his quasi-saint cultivation base, he had never been defeated by anyone in the same level as him. In the past, he had been able to challenge those of a higher level. But this time, he had been defeated. Xiang Wushuang could sense that his opponent hadn't even used his full strength, yet he had been defeated so miserably. Extraordinary, indeed. The golden-winged rocks got a great bargain. As the voice rang out, a figure appeared in the sky, emanating an invisible pressure. It was an old man. He wasn't very tall, but he had a weathered face. The wrinkles on his face seemed to flow with the passage of time, and his deep eyes rippled with lightning. He had seen many glorious things in the past. A true saint expert. At this instant, Du Xiaofu's heart shook abruptly. It was absolutely a saint realm expert who'd arrived. He seemed to be calm and composed, yet the inexplicable imposing aura caused space to tighten and congeal, and it caused the profound energy that flowed within his body to almost stop. Old Xiang, are you jealous? Jialo Batian appeared next to Du Xiaofu, and the pressure on Du Xiaofu immediately dissipated. Jialo Batian's eyes shone brightly on his gaunt face, and they rippled with golden light. He looked at the newcomer with a strange expression, then said to Du Xiaofu, Xiaofu, this is an old man from the ancient lightning mammoths. His name is Xiang Changsheng, and according to seniority, you should call him grandfather. Chapter 2072. It's the sage realm expert from the ancient thunder mammoths. Du Xiaofu's eyes trembled. From Jialo Batian's tone, it wasn't hard to guess that Jialo Batian wasn't just acquainted with the sage realm expert of the ancient thunder mammoths, but their relationship wasn't simple. Greetings, grandfather. The ancient sorcerer god's body and the great Peng's wings retracted. Although Du Xiaofu was surprised, he still bowed respectfully. Don't learn bad things from this treacherous old man, Xiang Zhangsheng said to Du Xiaofu, as if he was suppressing his anger. However, this anger wasn't directed at Du Xiaofu, but at Jialo Batian. Humph! Xiang Zhangsheng flung his robe, snorted coldly at Jialo Batian, and left. What's the meaning of this? How did he learn bad things from me? Jialo Batian glared at Xiang Zhangsheng's back and rolled his eyes. Then, he squeezed out a smile at Du Xiaofu and said, This old man is too petty. He looks honest, but in reality, he's full of evil tricks. Avoid him next time. Yes, Du Xiaofu nodded, but in his heart, he guessed that this cheap grandfather must have some grudge with Xiang Wushuang. Judging from Xiang Zhangsheng's attitude and expression, it was very likely that Jialo Batian had cheated him before. Swoosh swoosh, Moon Sage, Xiangu, Jialo Mola, and Feng Qi Saint arrived beside Du Xiaofu. They looked at Du Xiaofu with surprise in their eyes. How could they not see that Xiang Wushuang had used his full strength? Although Du Xiaofu didn't seem to be holding back, he definitely hadn't used his full strength. Otherwise, Xiang Wushuang would have been in a worse state. Even a supreme genius like Wushuang was defeated by this guy. Everyone couldn't help but be shocked. It seems that old man hasn't forgotten what happened back then. Xiangu glanced at Xiang Changsheng, who had landed beside Xiang Wushuang. He seemed to be implying something. The relationship between the Demon King Du Xiaofu and the golden-winged great rocks was known to the world. When Xiang Wushuang and Du Xiaofu had fought, Xiang Zhangsheng had tacitly agreed to it. Most likely, he had wanted Xiang Wushuang to win. However, he hadn't expected things to turn out this way. The Moon Saint smiled and said nothing. She knew some things about what had happened back then. Now that you've won, let's quickly enter the Tomb of Eternity, Old Granny Garuda said. Du Xiaofu nodded and didn't want to delay any longer. The figures around him also continued to enter the eternal tomb. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu looked at the space in front of him. There were many different gazes looking at him. Following those gazes, Du Xiaofu saw a peerless beauty with delicate skin and beautiful eyes. She wore a purple pleated skirt that seemed to emit a hazy glow and a fragrance. It's a demon spirit. Although the beauty's aura was extremely well hidden, Du Xiaofu's sharp primordial spirit could still sense the aura of a demon spirit. It's her. Following which, Du Xiaofu's eyes were filled with surprise as he saw a familiar beautiful figure. That dreamy purple hair glowed so brightly that it could reflect one's appearance. The curves of her body swayed up and down, causing one's heart to sway. Who else could it be but the mysterious woman who called herself Hong Yu that he had met in the divine domain? Could she be from the demon realm? Du Xiaofu guessed Hong Yu's identity. Xiaofu. A familiar voice rang out, and a slender and graceful figure flashed over. Her silky black hair was only lightly tied up, and the scattered long hair fluttered around her slender waist. She was exceptionally charming, and her face was filled with joy. Her light purple eyes were filled with joy. Muha. Du Xiaofu was pleasantly surprised. It was Sima Muhan. Her charming face had a bit more mature charm, making her even more alluring. Where's your father and my master? Du Xiaofu then looked in the direction that Sima Muhan had come from. He wanted to find his master Gu Qingyang and senior brother Sima Taxing. The ancient heaven sect was a force that had converted to the Mahist family. Moreover, Sima Muhan was also part of the Mahist family. Du Xiaofu guessed that she was with the Mahist family. Du Xiaofu really did see the Mahist families line up. They had already stepped into the tunnel in front of the eternal tomb. He could vaguely see some familiar figures like his senior brother Sima Taxing and Master Gu Qingyang. My father, Grandmaster, and the experts of the Mahist family are in front. They are entering the eternal tomb. Sima Muhan's beautiful eyes slightly raised. Her light purple eyes rippled with intelligence and charm. She pouted and said to Du Xiaofu, "We haven't seen each other for so long. Can't you care about me? I've been worried about you. It's good that you're fine." Du Xiaofu turned around and smiled. His master, Gu Qingyang, Muha, and the others were all fine. His last worry also fell, and his heart was completely at ease. I'm not angry with you. I know you have no conscience. Sima Muhan glared at Du Xiaofu, then pouted. Her red lips were alluring as she continued. I just arrived here with some elders of the Mahist family not long ago. I wanted to find you, but Sister Rune Nan said that you should be in seclusion recuperating, so I didn't disturb you. I just saw you and came here. Okay, let's enter the eternal tomb together. Be careful. Du Xiaofu nodded to Sima Muhan. He looked at where Hongyu had been and found that she had disappeared into the entrance of the eternal tomb. Then Du Xiaofu, Sima Muhan, and the others entered the entrance of the eternal tomb. Behind them, Moon Saint, Xin Gu, Phoenix Blaze Saint, Jalobatian, and the others followed, all of them carefully. Around the passage, the stars moved, and it was dreamy and hazy. Everyone stepped inside, as if they were going to enter another world. There was a strong suction force in the passage. The light was dazzling, and ancient, dazzling runes flashed. The void passage was already very wide, but the deeper they went, the wider it became. Gradually, many small void passages appeared. These passages twisted around, as if they could lead to many areas of the eternal tomb. This proved that there wasn't only one entrance in the eternal tomb, but many. Outside these side entrances, there were creatures choosing to enter. Du Xiaofu saw many familiar figures: Buddhism, Taoism, agriculture, Mahist, and so on. There they are. Du Xiaofu saw the disciples of the barren nation who had entered earlier. They were entering through one of the entrances. Du Xiaofu followed closely behind. His body was wrapped in golden light, and he entered directly. The void passage passed quickly. Du Xiaofu, Sima Muhan, Jalobatian, Moon Saint, and the others stepped out and appeared in another part of the void. Buzz, buzz. Du Xiaofu instantly felt an immense pressure crushing down on him. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. This great pressure seemed to want to crush living creatures. Those who were not strong enough would not be able to resist this great pressure at all. Carefully on guard, Du Xiaofu looked at the scenery around him. Below him was the faintly discernible ancient battlefield that was seen in the outside world. It was vast and boundless. In the middle of the ancient battlefield, the broken walls extended to the end of one's line of sight. There was a huge monster standing there, like a ferocious beast from the universe that was crawling on the vast ancient battlefield. That place seemed to be a lot clearer, but it was still hazy, as if it was covered by a thick fog. The aura made one's soul tremble. In the ancient battlefield, there were sparse ancient trees. Some of the trees were damaged, but they were still growing. Each of them was very strong. What was strange was that these ancient trees were all old trees. They towered into the sky. Some of the old bark was cracked, and some of the old vines were winding around them like dragons. The light inside was very bright. Along with the drifting fog, the light was dazzling. It made one feel that the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was so dense that one could even breathe in it. Rock Emperor, President, Xiaofu, Jinxingchun, Ilao, Du Tingxian, Mo Tianxiao, Yi Piaoling, Qi Yeshi, and the others saw Du Xiaofu and surrounded him. Du Xiaofu nodded and continued to look at the scenery around him. Although there was more than one entrance, there were many other living beings besides the Desolate Nation, the Phoenix Clan, the Yin School, and the others. Not far away, Du Xiaofu saw many other forces, but there was a distorted void between them. It was like there were many sides of space. One could see each other, but in the middle, there seemed to be a barrier. It was densely covered with runes. Du Xiaofu guessed in his heart that the surroundings of the ancient battlefield were split into more than 10 spatial positions to separate the living beings. However, every separated space was connected to the ancient battlefield. Looking around, Du Xiaofu wanted to find the people from the devil religion, but he did not find any. Not all of these seemingly separated spaces could be seen. Presumably, the people of the demonic sect were also somewhere at this moment. Boom! Du Xiaofu once again felt the purple lightning profound cauldron in the god's watchtower in his body being attracted by something. It was rumbling towards the depths of the towering colossus. Buzz buzz! At this moment, a divine sound suddenly filled the ancient battlefield. Dazzling rays of light shot into the sky. These dazzling rays of light shuttled between the broken walls and the ruins. A powerful ancient aura filled the air, illuminating the magnificent ruins of the giant hall in the distance. "It's those treasures." Everyone, the surrounding people exclaimed. They had already seen these treasures when they were in the outside world. Now that they were so close to them, they could feel the terrifying and vast aura emanating from the treasures. Those were definitely amazing treasures. Almost all of them were at the level of sacred artifacts. Those were piles of sacred artifacts. Piles of sacred artifacts. No one could resist such a temptation. Among the 9 great families, the dragons, the phoenixes, and the other large clans, even including the value of the ancient experts in their respective clans, there were only 2 or 3 sacred artifacts each. Now, in front of everyone, there were piles of sacred artifacts shuttling back and forth. They were whistling, and the sound of wind and thunder resounded. Chapter 2073. It was as if they had traveled through time and space. It burned one's heart and soul, causing one's blood to boil for no reason. Attack. This is a great opportunity. Attack. Under such temptation, some creatures could not resist and wanted to attack first. Their figures were as fast as lightning as they rushed forward, wanting to seize the treasures. There were also people from the desolate country who wanted to attack. Piles of divine weapons were almost in front of them. The temptation was too great. Everyone, be careful. This is not a good place. Du Xiaofu frowned. His intuition told him that this wasn't a good place, so he shouted, hearing Du Xiaofu's warning. Those from the desolate country and the Phoenix tribe who were about to attack immediately stopped. However, not everyone would listen to Du Xiaofu. Some of them directly pounced on the treasures. Swish! Suddenly, just as those creatures thought they were close to the treasures and were overjoyed, the sound of air being torn apart resounded. The raging flames of the heavenly generals landed on those creatures' bodies and strangely disappeared. Ah! In an instant, these creatures screamed at the same time. Their eyes were wide open and round, filled with deep fear. Then, from their bodies, a scorching heat rose. Flames gushed out from their 7 orifices, and their bodies turned into skeletons in an instant. These creatures' flesh and internal organs were burned. Finally, their skeletons were turned into ashes. Crash! More than 10 powerful cultivators died in such a strange way in an instant. Their souls were destroyed, and even their primordial spirits could not escape. This sent chills down the spines of the remaining people and made their hair stand on end. Rumble. At the same time, the surroundings trembled. Ancient talisman patterns appeared out of thin air. Large amounts of blazing flames seeped out from the void, as if they were descending from the sky, rushing forward. The terrifying heat was so intense that it submerged the void and burned it into a vacuum. Some of the creatures who were close did not have time to dodge. In shock, they activated their trump cards and treasures and attacked with all their might. However, The flames were too terrifying. Everywhere they passed, everything was burned. The treasures were turned into molten lava, and the creatures were burned into ashes. Screams of agony were heard continuously, making those who heard it feel particularly horrified. Everyone, retreat. Quick. Du Xiaofu was shocked. His expression changed greatly as he shouted. All of a sudden, Du Xiaofu's silhouette darted to the front, blocking the path of the barren nation's people. Ah! Screams of agony rang out from all directions. The other regions were also in a state of chaos. There were regions where lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Lightning descended, destroying everything. Those who had no one to protect them had their souls destroyed under the lightning. In some areas, saber light and sword shadows filled the air. Killing intent filled the air, ready to kill everything. There were regions where ice was frozen, icicles falling like sharp swords, able to freeze the primordial spirit. In some regions, strong winds howled, the wind was bone-chilling, and the color of the sky changed. Rumble, the entire ancient battlefield was rumbling, the runes dazzling. The changes in each spatial zone were different, but they were all filled with monstrous killing intent. Without the protection of experts, many of the living beings died. Retreat. Moon Saint, Jialo Batian, Phoenix Blaze Saint, and the other descendants of the protectors retreated as far as they could, blocking the terrifying flames. Their expressions were solemn. Fortunately, the terrifying flames only lingered in front of them and did not continue to sweep towards them. Instead, they completely covered the path in front of them. Du Xiaofu retreated to the back. Seeing that the strange and terrifying flames did not continue to approach, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Then, Du Xiaofu looked at the surrounding spaces. The situation in each region was similar. Some regions were covered in lightning, some were frozen, and some were howling with strong winds, blocking their path. This is an ancient formation. It has been activated. Jin Qingchuan's eyes lit up as he saw the clues. There was clearly an ancient formation around them, and they were trapped in it. A formation? Huh? Let me try. Du Xiaoyao stepped forward, his body shrouded in golden light as he rushed forward. Ordinary formations were useless against Du Xiaoyao, and he was immune to them. Awoo! When Du Xiaoyao stepped forward, the raging flames in front of him surged like a volcanic eruption, drowning Du Xiaoyao. Ancient runes filled the void, transforming into all kinds of flame beasts that roared. All kinds of flame beasts changed, and their aura made Jialo Batian and Xiangu frown. Awoo! Not long after, a dazzling golden redbone horse monkey rushed out of the monstrous flame runes, roaring in a very sorry state. The impact of the flames came from behind him. Du Xiaoyao's redbone horse monkey's body madly fled. Mysterious runes that filled the sky surged on his body, causing the surrounding space to ripple violently. It also pierced through the ancient runes in the surrounding space. As fast as lightning, Du Xiaoyao retreated to the side of Du Xiaofu, Jialo Batian, Moon Saint, and the others. The terrifying flames did not continue to pursue, but the terrifying aura that could devour everything had once again sent chills down their spines. Du Xiaoyao withdrew his body, his handsome face full of shock and astonishment. His golden robe was stained with the smell of the scorching flames, and there was still lingering fear in his expression. He said, "The situation was not good. Fortunately, I had some tricks up my sleeve, otherwise I would not have been able to get out. This ancient formation is not ordinary. Even I can't get through it." Du Xiaoyao was immune to ordinary formations and could directly ignore them. This was his terrifying innate ability, but he was very afraid of the formation just now and did not dare to rush in recklessly. Du Xiaofu looked at Du Xiaoyao, his expression extremely solemn. Du Xiaoyao had the body of a redbone horse monkey. He understood yin and yang, knew how to get in and out, and was good at prolonging life. But at this moment, he still could not get through this ancient formation, which was enough to show how powerful it was. If it was not Du Xiaoyao earlier, but anyone else, they would probably not be able to return alive. Du Xiaoyao personally went up, but he also returned in a sorry state. Du Xiaofu had no intention of trying it himself. Looking at the other regions in the surroundings, Du Xiaofu discovered that there were movements in those regions again. There were experts trying to break through the formation, using various methods. However, the result was like a heavenly punishment. Wind, rain, thunder, lightning, sabers, spears, swords, halberds, and gales were like blades. Many people were affected, and their souls were destroyed amidst miserable screams. There were also people who were studying the invisible barriers that separated the various regions, but they found that the barriers were unbreakable. Some experts took action, but when their attacks landed, they disappeared as if they had landed in a bottomless pit. They only caused some spatial ripples in the surroundings, like a few pebbles being thrown into a calm lake. "Father, let me try," Little Star said. Golden flames appeared in her eyes. She wanted to give it a try. "Don't go in rashly." Du Xiaofu stopped Little Star. Chapter 2074. Du Xiaofu knew that Little Xingxing had an abnormal defensive power, but this formation was not ordinary. Du Xiaoyao also retreated in a sorry state, not daring to let Little Xingxing take the risk. "Let me try. Is there really no way to enter?" Saint Fengqi spoke. Blazing five-colored flames surged out of his body, condensing into a phoenix phantom around him. His figure flashed out like a phoenix spreading its wings. With a vast and unparalleled posture, he plunged straight into the blazing sea of fire in front of him. Seeing Saint Fengqi take action, everyone's eyes were filled with anticipation. He was a Saint Realm expert, so there must be hope. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes and stared at the sea of fire in front of him. Saint Fengqi was a Saint Realm expert of the Phoenix clan, and his cultivation was also closely related to fire. Ordinary fire was useless in front of the Phoenix clan. Whoosh! As Saint Fengqi entered, the vast sea of fire immediately boiled again, and the temperature had clearly increased by dozens of times. The void was burned into nothingness, as if magma was boiling. Just the bubbles in the flames could penetrate the void. If one was accidentally contaminated, even a supreme Nirvana realm expert's defense would be destroyed in an instant, and his body would suffer a calamity. Saint Fengqi was worthy of being a Saint Realm expert of the Phoenix clan. At this moment, he also carried everyone's hope. In the terrifying flames, there was a five-colored flame around his body that seemed to be able to resist the terrifying heat and flames. The terror of the Phoenix clan, especially the effect of fire, was completely displayed at this moment. Then, he completely disappeared in the flames. Du Xiaofu's eyes were focused on the movements in the surrounding space. In front of him, there was an old man and a middle-aged expert with extremely powerful auras. At this moment, they were also approaching the sea of fire tentatively. Their bodies were covered in strange flames, and the mysterious runes on their talismans were dazzling. It was a special cultivation method of the Fire Tao. Then, more people followed. Some were covered in ice, while others were covered in rock-like armor. Their Xin Qi surged and condensed all kinds of defenses. They all had their own methods and secret techniques to cover their bodies without any cracks. They wanted to force their way through the sea of fire. But when screams rang out, many of those who were confident in their special secret techniques were immediately killed. They could not compare to Saint Fengqi at all. They were burned to ashes in the sea of fire, and even their souls could not escape. This is too strange. Those blood-curdling screams made people's hearts palpitate. Originally, there were still people who wanted to try using their own secret techniques, but after seeing the fate of those people, they didn't dare to go forward. Not long after, the cry of a phoenix resounded. The vast sea of fire in front of him surged, and a huge phoenix body wrapped in monstrous five-colored flames rushed out. The terrifying pressure shattered the void, accompanied by a sky full of runes that covered the void. It was like a miracle. Not good. Saint Fengqi is in trouble. Xian Gu, Moon Saint, and Jialo Baishan's faces changed. Attack. The three figures were covered in ink-black runes. Starlight rippled, and golden light shot out from their bodies. The three attacks were like three dazzling thunderbolts as they ruthlessly rushed into the sea of fire. Rumble. Three terrifying attacks froze the void. These were the attacks of three Saint Plane cultivators. They all crashed into the sea of fire and exploded. In an instant, Violent energy fluctuations spread out. It was vast and mighty, causing the space of the sea of fire to distort and become illusory. It was as if the vast sea of fire was going to be extinguished. Large swaths of flames were overturned in all directions. Whoosh! But at this moment, the overturned flames retracted. It was like a bomb had exploded in the depths of the sea, creating monstrous waves. But the waves would always roll back, and at the same time, they would create monstrous waves that swept in all directions. Not good. Moon Saint, Jalobatian, and Xiangu's faces changed again. They also became serious. The attacks that the three of them had gathered together were useless. Instead, they had created monstrous waves of flames. If they poured down, who knew how many people would be killed, including their descendants? Whoosh! The three great cultivators attacked, and three monstrous auras swept out. Golden light shot out like a golden waterfall. Starlight rippled, and a river of stars appeared. Inky black runes filled the void and filled it. These three beams of energy formed a light shield. Stars rotated, and the shadow of a golden-winged rock swayed within it. There was also the shadow of a giant tortoise entrenched within. It erupted with incomparably terrifying power, blocking the flames that were pouring down and surging in front of it. The terrifying flames burned, and it was very strange and terrifying. It seemed to be able to melt Xin-Chi and corrode everything. It was able to silently destroy the light shields of Jalobatian, Moon Saint, and Xiangu. The light shields dimmed and were about to be annihilated. Fortunately, the defenses set up by the three Saint Plane cultivators were not simple. In the end, they resisted the terrifying waves of flames. Thud-thud, Jalobatian, Moon Saint, and Xiangu staggered back. Their faces had turned pale, and their eyes were filled with shock. The flames were so powerful. Whoosh! A huge phoenix spread its wings and rushed out of the sea of flames. The five-colored flames on its body dimmed, and its feathers were burned. It turned into a human form and quickly landed beside Jalobatian, Xiangu, and Moon Saint. Its brocade clothes were torn, and its hair was scattered. It was Saint Fengqi. Too strong. There are endless changes inside. It's a murderous trap. There's no way to break through. Saint Fengqi looked into the depths of the sea of flames with lingering fear. There was a vast power in the sea of flames. It was unpredictable and endless, and it could suppress him. If it weren't for his own talent, he would have been trapped inside. The consequences would have been unimaginable. Thinking back, he was still scared. It's too strong. Even a Saint Plane cultivator can't break through. Everyone's face was solemn. They originally thought that there would be great opportunities in the Eternal Tomb. Who knew that they would be unable to break through the piles of Saint artifacts in front of them? Even a Saint Plane cultivator had to retreat. The others would only be courting death if they went in. This formation is too strong. Little Xingxing pouted as he looked at the sea of flames in front of him. At this moment, he frowned. The mysterious mark between his eyebrows piled up together, as if there was a faint golden light fluctuating. Du Xiaofu frowned. The sea of flames was strange and terrifying. It seemed to be able to consume a person's Xian-Qi. The sea of flames was actually condensed by this formation. It had endless changes and killing intent. Even a Saint Plane cultivator couldn't force his way through, so it was unlikely that anyone present could. According to Du Xiaofu's observation, if a Saint Plane cultivator wanted to pass through the sea of flames, they would be exhausted in the middle. At that time, they would also suffer a calamity. Chapter 2075. We're in big trouble. It seems that no one can break through. Jalobatian said. His golden eyes swept across the surroundings with a serious expression. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows and looked around again. At this moment, there were also mighty fluctuations in the space in other areas. Those were the attacks of the Saint Plane cultivators. Among them, Du Xiaofu vaguely saw the figures of the Saint Plane cultivators from the Taoist school, Confucian school, and other forces that he had met before. However, the outcome of the battle was the same as the battle on the other side. Even the Sage Realm experts were unable to do anything. Was it left behind by the Lord of the 3,000 sectors? Du Xiaofu was shocked. Such a large formation could even block Saint Realm experts. How terrifying was it? He wondered if it was left behind by the Lord of the 3,000 sectors. This is an ancient formation. Every spatial area is a corner of the formation. We are only in one corner. While everyone was solemn, Jin Qingchun spoke. He had been studying the formation and had found some clues. Hearing this, many people's eyes fell on Jin Qingchun. Many people knew Jin Qingchun's identity. He was a master of formations. Although there were many talisman masters present, Jin Qingchun was definitely the best when it came to formations. Is there any way to break the formation? Old Lady Jialo Maluo asked Jin Qingchun. Since they could not force their way through the sea of fire, they could only break the formation. This formation was left behind by an ancient expert. It is beyond my knowledge. Just a corner of it is already extremely profound. Sacred Array boy Jin Qingchun smiled bitterly. He had been studying it all this while, but he knew very well that this ancient array was not something he could break. Hearing Jin Qingchun's words, many people's eyes, which had been lit with hope, dimmed again. If Jin Qingchun could not do anything, no one present would be able to break the formation. Xiaofu, do you have any ideas? As everyone sighed, Jin Qingchun asked Du Xiaofu. Others might not know, but Jin Qingchun was very clear that in terms of attainments and formations, Du Xiaofu was probably not inferior to him since a long time ago. That kind of talent was something he had never mentioned before. However, Jin Qingchun still couldn't understand. Although this guy was extremely talented in formations, he clearly hadn't spent much time on them. How could he have improved so quickly? Not simple. I've never seen anything like this before. Du Xiaofu frowned as he scanned his surroundings. He had been secretly observing and studying the ancient formation. Du Xiaofu had never seen such a large formation before. The terrifying flames were only condensed by the formation, and they were extremely strange. All attacks were useless in front of them, and they were even like adding fuel to the fire, causing the sea of flames to burn even more fiercely. This formation came from ancient times. It should have been left behind by the great calamity. After a long time, it should be incomplete. Jin Qingchun said in a deep voice. He had studied and observed it for a long time, but he didn't understand much. He could only see some clues. Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered as he looked into the depths of the sea of flames. There were flames roaring and fluttering as if there was no end. In the extreme distance was the ancient battlefield. Multicolored light overflowed into the heavens. There were piles of treasures there. Only by crossing the sea of fire ancient formation could one step into the ancient battlefield. Everyone, step back. Let me try to break the formation. Raising his head slightly and thinking for a while, Du Xiaofu made a decision. Du Xiaofu didn't seem to have any other choice. Even Du Xiaoyao was blocked, let alone him. It was also impossible to force his way through. If a Saint Stage expert didn't have a chance, others would have even less hope. From what Saint Fengqi had said just now, Du Xiaofu felt that it was impossible to break through with just strength. It was misty and ever-changing inside. This was a great formation, a killing trap. It was difficult to solve the problem with brute force. Even if they could break in, just the consumption alone was enough to exhaust all the Saint Stage experts. Therefore, they could only break the formation. This was an ancient formation, and it was very likely left behind by the 3,000 sectors. However, it had been a long time, and it was incomplete and exhausted. This was only a corner of the formation. Perhaps there was still a chance. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, everyone's expression froze. Are you confident? Du Tingxian asked Du Xiaofu with a serious expression. If they wanted to break the formation, they had to go deep into the ancient formation. If they were not careful, they would undoubtedly burn themselves. The consequences could be imagined. Du Xiaofu shook his head, but his eyes were determined. He said to Du Tingxian, "No, but I want to try." "Child, this is too risky." Old Lady Jialo Maluo shook her head, not wanting Du Xiaofu to take the risk. "Grandma, I will be careful. Let me try." Du Xiaofu said, not changing his mind. "Xiaofu, I will go with you. We can take care of each other." Jalobatian said. He did not stop him, knowing that he had no other choice. The overbearing aura on his body surged, and his eyes were sharp. At least he could protect his grandson. I also know some formations. I will go with you. Gu Xinyan said, her beautiful eyes shining. I will go with you too. Dongli Qingqing, Qi Yeshi, Jin Qingchun, Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, and the others spoke. Dad, I want to go with you too. Du Xiaohuang's voice was tender. She looked at Du Xiaofu seriously, blinking her eyes. Me too, Little Xingxing said. Xiaofu, I also know a little about formations. I will go with you. Yu Xianzi said, her voice soft. She was wearing a green palace dress. Although she looked middle-aged, her temperament was refined, as if she was untainted by the mortal world. In recent years, her black hair had begun to show white strands. At this moment, Yu Xianzi and the disciples of the Seven-Star Hall were also in the Heavenly Devil battlefield. It will be inconvenient if there are too many people. I am just trying. It will not be a big problem. Du Xiaofu shook his head at the crowd, knowing that they were worried. However, he was just trying to break the formation. If there were too many people, it would trigger the formation, and there would be no benefits. Brother Qingchun, Little Yao, just accompany me. After that, Du Xiaofu said to his big brother, Jin Qingchun, and Du Xiaoyao. Among those present, his big brother, Jin Qingchun, was definitely not the strongest, but in terms of talisman formations, there was probably no one who could surpass him. And Du Xiaoyao had innate skills, so she might be able to play a big role. Therefore, Du Xiaofu chose Du Xiaoyao and Jin Qingchun. The two of them were enough. Okay, Jin Qingchun and Du Xiaoyao nodded. They both took a deep breath and prepared. Phew! Du Xiaofu adjusted his state and looked at the sea of fire in front of him. Then, he walked to the edge of the sea of fire with Du Xiaoyao and Jin Qingchun. Everyone was on tenterhooks and held their breaths. Jalobatian, Xian Gu, Moon Saint, and Phoenix Blaze Saint all had solemn expressions. They were fully focused, guarding against the slightest change so that they could lend a hand in time. The sea of fire was scorching hot, and the void was twisting. The scorching heat permeated the air, causing people's souls to wither. Their skin felt like it would catch fire at any moment. It was difficult to resist. Just the high temperature in this space alone was enough to make living beings sweat with all their might. Their skin felt like it was about to be roasted dry. Why haven't they moved yet? After a while, seeing Du Xiaofu, Jin Qingchun, and Little Xingxing standing there without moving, some people began to feel puzzled. They're discussing. They're communicating with their origin spirits. They should be studying the formation. Some experts saw through the clues. Du Xiaofu, Jin Qingchun, and Du Xiaoyao were communicating with their origin spirits. They were studying the terrifying ancient formation and did not enter rashly. At this moment, Du Xiaofu, Jin Qingchun, and Du Xiaoyao were indeed studying the formation and communicating with each other. This formation is connected to the surroundings. We're only at a corner right now, but it won't be easy to break through it, Du Xiaofu said. He had extraordinary talent in comprehending formations. Coupled with the heavenly spirit record his master had left behind in his mind, he was basically standing on the shoulders of giants. He had a much higher starting point than others. Coupled with the fact that he had Jin Qingchun, a formation expert, by his side, he had long since reached the level of a formation expert. Du Xiaofu wanted to attempt to break through the formation because he had no other choice. But there was also another reason. As he observed the ancient formation, Du Xiaofu's sharp origin spirit and attainments in formations sent some clues. Although he had never seen this ancient formation before, it didn't seem like a formation of the present age. It even gave off a feeling that it didn't belong to this world. This ancient formation was all-encompassing and boundless, but it also gave Du Xiaofu a sense of familiarity. This sense of familiarity wasn't because Du Xiaofu had seen this formation before. It was because the style of the formation's layout made Du Xiaofu feel as if he had seen it somewhere before. Du Xiaofu thought of the heavenly spirit record. The research on formations recorded in it was really somewhat similar to this ancient formation. Du Xiaofu transmitted his origin spirit. The heavenly spirit record appeared in his mind. He told Jin Qingchun and Du Xiaoyao many of the records in the heavenly spirit record. The three of them sank into deep thought as they tried to break through the formation, carefully comprehending it. Although Du Xiaoyao wasn't an array talisman master, He had an innate talent in formations, so he could understand it with just a little bit. It was useless for anyone to be jealous of such an innate talent. Du Xiaoyao was born with an abnormal advantage in formations. It's too vast. It's endlessly useful. Jin Xingchun was an array formation expert, so he was able to comprehend some of the formation information recorded in the heavenly spirit record very quickly. He was shocked by the information. It was simply an array formation treasure trove. It was an unparalleled treasure trove for array talisman masters. Jin Xingchuan's inverted triangular eyes twitched occasionally. His eyebrows were raised from time to time, sometimes pleasantly surprised, and sometimes deep in thought. In some of the surrounding areas, some powerhouses with extremely high attainments in formations also realized that there was a problem. They started to join forces and comprehend the formation, trying to find a way to break it. There are many directions that can change endlessly. However, this great formation is now damaged and should be an ownerless object. Its power can no longer be compared to before. Therefore, there should be a chance to break through any direction. Chapter 2076. An hour later, Du Xiaofu transmitted his voice to Du Xiaoyao and Jin Xingchun, his eyes shining. Let's give it a try and act according to the circumstances. Only by being inside can we see more clearly. Jin Xingchuan's heart surged with excitement. If he could break this corner of the ancient formation today, it would be enough for him to make a qualitative leap in his attainments in talisman arrays. Follow me and be careful. Du Xiaofu clenched his teeth. Only by being inside the formation could he see more clearly. Condensing his hand seals, Du Xiaofu's eyes emitted a white light. It was as dazzling as a divine light, carrying with it an ancient pressure. Then, Du Xiaofu's figure was wrapped in golden light. Carefully and mysteriously, he rushed into the boiling sea of flames. Be careful. Many people were on tenterhooks, gasping for breath for the three. Even a Saint Realm expert like Saint Fengqi had to retreat in a sorry state after entering. How could these three be unharmed? Everyone was dumbstruck as they stared blankly, as if they had seen an inconceivable scene. Under everyone's shocked gazes, Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and Jin Xingchun charged into the terrifying sea of flames. But an extraordinary scene occurred. The monstrous flames did not engulf the three of them. Not only that, but the monstrous flames even retreated. Ancient runes surrounded Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and Jin Xingchun, isolating them from the terrifying flames. The three of them entered the sea of flames and did not trigger any more intense flames. They were safe and sound. They're really breaking the formation. Saint Fengqi was shocked, his eyes wide open. He was the clearest about how terrifying that formation was. He had almost not been able to get out. But now, those three had really gone in. Although they had not gone too deep, they were safe and sound. This little guy's attainments in talisman arrays are also terrifying. Xiangu opened his mouth. His ancient eyes rippled. This is just the beginning. Jalo Baishan's eyes flickered, but he didn't relax in the slightest. His face darkened, and he transmitted his voice to the ears of everyone in the area, saying, "Don't act rashly. If anyone affects them, I won't be polite." In the depths of the sea of fire, the surrounding sea of fire roared. Du Xiaofu, Jin Xingchun, and Du Xiaoyao, who were in the middle of it, could feel how terrifying it was. The blazing heat caused his soul to wither and his primordial spirit to feel like it was on fire. His surroundings changed endlessly, filled with killing intent. Be careful. Du Xiaofu let out a sigh of relief. This proved that his comprehension of the heavenly spirit record as a foundation was correct, but he didn't relax at all. Instead, he became even more serious. This was only the beginning. The deeper they went, the more dangerous it would be. If he made a single mistake, it would be enough to trigger a monstrous killing spree. Relax. Don't be too nervous. It's not good for breaking the formation. It's just a broken formation. We can definitely break it. Jin Xingchuan's eyes lit up. At this moment, there was a trace of Tao, which made him look extraordinary and radiant. The three of them continued to comprehend. Sometimes, they would pause and ponder. Occasionally, they would form hand seals. Every step they took forward was like walking on thin ice. They were very careful. Time slowly passed. Everyone held their breaths in silence. The three of them slowly disappeared into the sea of fire. They had gone deep inside. You must be careful. Jialo Mola, Ilao, and Du Xiaoman quietly clenched their fists, nervously watching the movements in the sea of fire. In the surrounding space, some experts of formations had also entered the formation. Some extraordinary ones had comprehended and reached the edge of the formation. However, most of them failed. Many experts of formations had triggered the formation and were forced to retreat. Some were injured, and some died. Soon, screams resounded. Time passed by slowly. 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. Awoo! Within the sea of flames, enormous waves surged from time to time. Ancient symbols overflowed into the heavens, and endless transformations surged, making everyone feel nervous and on edge. Everyone was trapped in this terrifying formation, isolated in different areas. They could not move forward. Even the saints were powerless. Some extraordinary experts of formations had entered the formation, but they were only at the edge. Their progress was as slow as a turtle's. After more than 20 hours, in the center of the sea of fire, raging flames roared. Who set up this terrifying formation? It's too vast. Zhen Qingchuan's face was pale. Being in this broken formation was no less than a life and death battle. The more they went, the more they felt that this formation was unfathomable and boundless. They were only in a corner of a broken formation, and it was already so terrifying. If this formation had a master and was activated in a perfect state, how terrifying would it be? It would probably be enough to trap and kill all the saints in the world. This formation might not be something from this world, Du Xiaoyao said, her eyes rippling with golden light. Du Xiaofu stood in the sea of fire. Ancient runes fluctuated around him. White light flickered in his eyes like divine light. He looked around and said, "How should we choose? One step to live, and the other step to die." Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Zhen Qingchun and Du Xiaoyao were startled. They looked at Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaoyao said, "Why don't we try to force our way in? We won't have any chance if we force our way in. It will also make all our efforts go to waste." Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. Looking at Du Xiaoyao and Zhen Qingchun, he said, "I don't know whether the next step will lead to survival or despair. Do you want to continue breaking the formation, or go back? Do you want to decide, or do you want to decide? It's up to you. But if we go back, all our efforts will go to waste." Zhen Qingchun said seriously. He frowned and looked around. "We've spent dozens of hours trying to break the formation. If we give up now, all our efforts will go to waste. Let's continue. At worst, we'll just go all out," Du Xiaoyao said. Du Xiaofu was deep in thought. Since the heavenly demon was present, it was most likely set up by the Lord of the 3,000 worlds. When the eternal tomb opened, it did not stop any living beings from entering. That meant that there was a way out. After a while, Du Xiaofu raised his head. Looking at the rolling flames and ancient runes fluctuating around him, he gritted his teeth and said slowly, "Then let's take a gamble." As his voice sounded, Du Xiaofu reminded his big brother, Zhen Qingchun, and Du Xiaoyao. With a wave of his purple sleeve, a golden light wrapped around his body, following which, his figure directly rushed into the blazing flame in front of him. Du Xiaoyao and Zhen Qingchun were already prepared. They followed closely behind. As the three of them charged in, a large expanse of ancient talisman runes surged, and the blazing flames in the surroundings suddenly became violent. It was as if a volcano was erupting, and the temperature rose sharply. The surging flames were like lava as they surged towards Du Xiaofu's group. "Oh no, we're in big trouble." Zhen Qingchuan's expression changed. His eyebrows were almost knitted together. "Not necessarily. Look ahead," Du Xiaofu said. He looked ahead. There were changes there. Zhen Qingchun and Du Xiaoyao heard him and immediately looked in the direction Du Xiaofu was looking. Just as the rolling flames roared in front of them, a passageway door was faintly discernible. The vast blazing aura around them slowly disappeared. The pressure and obstruction around them also faded. That must be the exit. Du Xiaoyao was overjoyed. Although the formation could block it, its innate talent allowed it to sense that it was the exit. The three of them flashed and directly entered the passageway door. Suddenly, the pressure inside was gone. There were no blazing flames. There was not even the slightest bit of obstruction. After about 10 breaths, the three of them trembled. It was as if they were about to fall. They immediately flashed and celestial chi flew out of their palms. They landed steadily on the ground. When the three of them landed, they quickly raised their heads and looked around. Their faces were filled with shock. Then, they were overjoyed. At this moment, some of the living beings in the surrounding area also saw a strange scene. Far away from the formation that they could not pass through, three figures suddenly appeared on the ancient battlefield that could still be vaguely seen. It seems to be Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaoyao. It seems to be the sacred array child Jin Qingchun as well. Heavens, how did they get in? Did they break the formation? How did they get in? What's going on? In an instant, all the living beings in the surrounding area were in an uproar and were shocked. In the distant ancient battlefield, they saw three figures. The Demon King, Du Xiaofu, the Red-Bone Horse Monkey, Du Xiaoyao, and the Sacred Array Child, Jin Qingchun, had all appeared on the ancient battlefield. Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and Jin Qingchun landed on the ground and looked around. In the void above their heads, there were blazing magma flames entrenched like huge waves. The three of them could clearly see that it was the area they had just walked out of. Jalobatian, Moonsage, Dongli Ruashu, Dongli Ruayun, Mo Tian Shao, Qi Yishi, and Little Xingxing seemed to be not far ahead. Those magma flames were only hovering above their heads, and they were not as terrifying as they had seen in the formation just now. President Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu could clearly hear Mo Tian Shao, Ouyang Shuang, and Sima Muhan calling out to him, but they couldn't come over. It was as if the inside and outside of the formation were two completely different worlds. Du Xiaofu could now see all of the spell formation corners in the area and could clearly see them. There were a total of 12 areas, with dazzling arcs of electricity that looked like giant pythons coiled up in the air. There were also tempestuous vortexes and swirling ice and snow. Figures flitted through the various areas. Du Xiaofu could see the Taoist school, the school of agriculture, and the Buddhist school. He also saw the sage realm experts from the school of vertical and horizontal, the school of famers, the dragons, and the school of legalism. Devil religion? Du Xiaofu finally saw the figures of those from the devil sect. At the corner of their formation, there was a huge mountain floating in the air like a meteor. Towering devil chi permeated the air even through the grand formation. We broke the formation. We broke the formation. Zhang Qingchuan's voice was filled with excitement. The three of them had broken the formation and were now inside. So many treasures. Holy items. Cosmos bags. Du Xiaoyao's golden eyes glowed as she looked at the piles of holy items streaking through the ancient battlefield. Cosmos bags littered the ground. Chapter 2077. Du Xiaofu retracted his gaze and looked in front of him. The vast ancient battlefield was ancient. Between the broken walls, piles of sage artifacts could be seen outside. At this moment, they were shuttling back and forth not far away, emitting sounds of wind and thunder and bursting with light. These treasures and sage artifacts were left behind from ancient times. They still emanated an ancient aura that shook one's soul. Haha, Du Xiaofu was stunned for a moment. Then, he laughed. The corners of his mouth curled into an undisguised smile. Take them all. As soon as he said that, mystic chi surged from the soles of his feet. Without any hesitation, Du Xiaofu's figure had already swept out. These were sage artifacts and Qingchuan bags left behind from ancient times. How could he let them go? If others entered this place, he would not be able to monopolize them. At this moment, the others were still blocked outside. This was the best time to take the treasures. He had to strike first to gain the upper hand. Boom. There was no need for Du Xiaofu to say anything. Du Xiaoyao and Jin Qingchun had already rushed out. How could they let go of such a pile of treasures? Buzz. Wind and thunder resounded. The sage artifacts had artifact spirits. They emitted a terrifying aura and were very powerful. These sage artifacts and treasures were left behind from ancient times. They were already ownerless. However, the sage artifacts had their own spirits. They would choose to recognize an owner and would also refuse to be forcibly suppressed. Where do you think you are going? Zhen Qingchun activated the Mystic Divine Pagoda and used the 6 wheels blood-killing array to forcibly collect the sage artifacts and treasures. Behave yourself. Du Xiaoyao rushed out and waved her hand. Golden light burst out, and a terrifying aura suppressed the sage artifacts and restrained them. Kacha, kacha. A clear and crisp sound came out of little demon Du's mouth. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Du Xiaoyao directly stuffed the sage artifacts into her mouth and chewed them like snacks. Her mouth was full of colorful light and energy waves. Anyone who looked at her would be dumbstruck. Du Xiaoyao, don't waste them. Keep them well. Du Xiaofu's heart was broken. That was an ancient sacred artifact that had been left behind since ancient times. It had been left behind by those ancient experts who had perished in the heavenly devil battlefield, but now it had been ruined by Du Xiaoyao. Oh, within Du Xiaofu's divine watchtower, the purple-gold heavenly watchtower seemed to have sensed the holy weapons dancing in the air. It roared and rumbled, wanting to drill out as well. But Du Xiaofu was suppressing the purple-gold heavenly palace, so he didn't dare to release it to cause trouble. These saint items were too valuable, and he couldn't bear to let the purple-gold heavenly palace destroy them. There are a lot of saint artifacts. Eating 2 of them isn't a big deal. Du Xiaoyao replied to Du Xiaofu. It was rare for her to have a saint weapon to eat. However, due to Du Xiaofu's heartache, Du Xiaoyao forced herself to stop eating. Instead, she chased after the sacred artifact to forcefully suppress it. Suppress. Du Xiaofu didn't stay idle either. Golden light erupted, and the golden wings on his back spread out. Wherever they passed, the scattered Qinkuan bags were collected, forcefully suppressing the sacred artifacts. Fuck. Not good, this is not good. It's over. How did that demon king get in? It's over. My sacred artifacts. Not good. Something big has happened. Du Xiaofu and the others are picking up the sacred artifacts. Quickly break the formation. Quickly, if you don't break the formation, all the sacred artifacts will be picked up by that demon king. It's over. It's really over. All the treasures will be picked up by that demon king. All the creatures in the area were boiling. They were all dumbstruck, and their eyes were twitching fiercely. Looking at the 3 people picking up piles of sacred artifacts in the ancient battlefield, everyone felt their hearts ache. It was as if their flesh had been cut off. Piles of sacred artifacts and treasures, as well as the Qinkuan bags left behind by ancient experts. It was easy to imagine what was inside. All the creatures entered the heavenly devil battlefield for these treasures and opportunities. But now, they could only watch on helplessly as those saint artifacts and treasures were harvested by someone else. As for them, they could only watch on helplessly. That kind of feeling was almost enough to make them faint. How did they get in? That demon king is a bandit. Demon King Du Xiaofu is not a kind person. He will definitely not show mercy. It's over. It's all over. It's all his. Some creatures sighed sorrowfully, some hung their heads dejectedly, and some beat their chests and stomped their feet. With that demon king's reputation, how could there be fish that escaped the net wherever he went? And with that demon king's strength and fierce reputation, once those sacred artifacts and treasures fell into his hands, who would dare to snatch them? Ha 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 ha. At this moment, in the vast space covered by the sea of fire, hearty laughter resounded. Jalo Batian laughed without hiding his laughter. Everyone in the desolate country was stunned. Looking at the 3 figures in the ancient battlefield, their eyes trembled. Then, they revealed undisguised joy and cheered. We're rich now. Ilao trembled with excitement. His gray-robed long sleeves clenched his fists, and his face was full of joy. Lian Qingrong, Imo Tianxiao, Dongfang Qingmu, and the others watched. They did not know why, but at this moment, they could not help but feel their blood boiling. After all, it had been so long. No matter what the reason was, they were already a part of the desolate country. At this moment, seeing the piles of ancient sacred artifacts and treasures being harvested by the desolate country, they could not help but feel excited. Take them all. Don't leave a single one. Quickly take them all. Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, and the others cheered excitedly. Du Xiaohuang was also clapping her little hands. Her tender voice kept shouting at the ancient battlefield, "Dad, Uncle Xiaoyao, Uncle Qingchun, you can do it." Du Tingxian looked at the ancient battlefield in the distance. The corners of his mouth twitched, and his eyes widened on his handsome face. Xiangu, Moon Saint, Fengqi Saint, Huang Ling and the others were stunned. They could not recover from their shock. Not only did the three guys break through the ancient formation, but they also directly picked up the sacred artifacts and treasures that were coveted by all the experts in the world. Any one of the sacred artifacts and treasures was enough to tempt the likes of Moon Saint, Xiangu, and Fengqi Saint. Not to mention the piles of sacred artifacts and treasures, as well as the Qingkuan bags left behind by the ancient experts. The piles of sacred artifacts and treasures were being harvested by the three guys. With the desolate country's group of sovereigns and the sacred artifacts and treasures left behind by the ancient experts, who could stop the desolate country from prospering? The desolate country was already filled with sovereigns. Not to mention existences like Du Yunlong, Dai Xingyu, Du Xiaoyao, and Little Xingxing, Mo Tianxiao, Dongfang Qingmu, Ming Yao, and Lian Qingrong had all been pulled into the desolate country. It could be said that the desolate country was a nest of sovereigns right now. Coupled with the sacred artifacts and treasures from the ancient times, it was enough to reach a whole new level. In the other regions, legalism, dragons, famous clans, school of vertical and horizontal saints were trapped in the formation. They were powerless as well. They could only watch as Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and Zhun Qingchun harvested the piles of sacred artifacts and treasures. Their eyes were practically spitting fire. Chapter 2078. However, there was nothing they could do. They could only suppress their anger. It's over. There aren't many left. I can't stand it anymore. Bastard, leave some for us. In every corner of the formation, some of the creatures could no longer bear to watch. They could only watch helplessly as the piles of divine weapons and treasures were forcibly suppressed by the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and Zhun Qingchun. Some people simply closed their eyes, unable to bear the shock. The piles of divine weapons and treasures were the greatest opportunity they had found in the heavenly devil battlefield. However, they did not even have the chance to fight for them as the Demon King had collected them all. They could only watch helplessly. Everyone knew that the treasures belonged to the fated ones. As long as they were in the hands of the Demon King, with the desolate country's current strength and the Demon King's ferocious strength, those divine weapons and treasures would no longer have anything to do with them. Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and Zhun Qingchun were busy harvesting the divine weapons and treasures. They were also searching for the Qingkuan bags left behind by the ancient experts. They did not have the time to care about the feelings of the other creatures. Of course, with the personalities of Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and Zhun Qingchun, they would not care about other people's feelings. It was not difficult for them to obtain benefits, but the heavens would not tolerate it. The piles of ancient divine weapons shuttled back and forth with impressive power. Fortunately, they had not recognized an owner. Coupled with the current strength of Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaoyao, it was not too difficult for them to forcibly suppress and harvest the divine weapons. Zhun Qingchuan's strength was naturally inferior to Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaoyao. However, with the six wheels blood kill formation in his hands, he could also suppress the divine weapons. It was just that the speed of harvesting the divine weapons was somewhat slow. The battlefield inside was very vast. It was like a world of its own. The divine weapons shuttled back and forth. Rumble. Suddenly, the entire ancient battlefield rumbled. The ground shook and the void trembled. It made one's heart jump. Du Xiaofu's figure paused for a moment. He looked up and saw that the lightning, flames, storm vortexes, snow, and other phenomena that had occupied the space around him were cracking. The runes were fading, causing the space to tremble. That was the ancient formation loosening, as if it was about to break apart. The formation seems to be about to break. Hurry up and withdraw. Du Xiaofu spoke. He didn't know the reason, but the ancient great formation was loosening at this moment and was about to break. When the time came, everyone would come in. so they had to speed up the harvesting of the sacred artifacts. Withdraw. Upon hearing this, Du Xiaoyao's aura erupted. Golden light gushed out like a radiant sun and sped up the harvesting of the saint artifacts. With the talent of Du Xiaoyao and Du Xiaofu, the treasures that they passed through would not be able to escape their prying and searching. Once everyone entered and the saint stage powerhouses joined in, they would no longer have such an excellent opportunity. Boom! The golden wings of the Great Peng flapped, carrying the domineering will of the golden-winged Great Peng race. Du Xiaofu did his best to speed up the harvesting of the sacred artifacts. Rumble. Within the various regions of the ancient Great Formation, the phenomena were changing. Runes flickered and trembled. Crack, crack. Within the various spatial regions, the invisible spatial barriers distorted and faintly discernible spatial cracks appeared. This ancient Great Formation has been around for too long. It's damaged and ownerless. The Demon King and Du Xiaofu have broken a corner, which is equivalent to breaking a corner of the entire Great Formation. It's about to be completely broken. A talisman formation expert spoke. He had seen some clues. This ancient Great Formation was about to be completely broken. Is the Great Formation about to break? Hearing this, all the creatures became excited. The Demon King, Du Xiaofu, and Du Xiaoyao were harvesting the sacred artifacts. Once the Great Formation was about to break, at least a few would be left for them. Rumble. The Great Formation continued to emit rumbling sounds that shook people's souls, making them crazily excited. The sea of flames, astral winds, lightning, thunder, and other phenomena slowly disappeared. Whoosh! Finally, the Great Formation was completely broken, turning into resplendent runes that filled the sky. They exploded in the void like fireworks, and a sonorous sound like the sound of heavenly music could be heard. Rumble. The entire ancient battlefield was trembling endlessly, shocking the world. Quick, harvest the sacred artifacts. Everyone cried out in alarm. As the Great Formation was broken, they immediately rushed inside. All the creatures went crazy. This figure rushed out, his aura erupting as he rushed inside together. The ancient battlefield was vast like a world. It was very big and vast. When the Great Formation was completely broken, the last sacred artifact spear that could be seen was suffused with resplendent light. It was as if it had turned into a cluster of lightning and exploded towards Du Xiaofu. Collect. However, this last sacred artifact was also distorted by Du Xiaofu's claw. It was as if a golden-winged Great Peng bird had swayed out and imprisoned it in his hand, and it was stored in his bag. Rumble. All of a sudden, a majestic aura approached Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and Zhen Qingchun, distorting the space around them, causing their hearts to tremble and their primordial spirits to quiver. This aura made Du Xiaoyao and Du Xiaofu's hearts tremble. Swish, swish, almost at the same time, 4 figures landed beside Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and Zhen Qingchun like bolts of lightning. Accompanied by an invisible force, they blocked out the vast aura from before, allowing Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and Zhen Qingchun to immediately relieve the pressure. The newcomers were Jialo Batian, Xian Gu, Moon Saint, and Phoenix Blaze Saint. They immediately appeared beside Du Xiaofu and the others. A vast aura surged in the distance. Many figures appeared there, shining with dazzling light. They were the saints from the school of legalism, the school of vertical and horizontal, the dragons, and the famous clans. These people stared at Jialo Batian, Moon Saint, and the others who had appeared beside Du Xiaofu immediately. Their eyes twitched, and killing intent flickered in their eyes. However, they seemed to have some misgivings, so they resisted the urge to attack. Xiaojing. Du Tingxian rushed over and stood in the air. He stared at the space before him, where a woman stood beside Qin Yunlong, the founder of the school of legalism. Her ethereal eyes sparkled like stars on her delicate face. She was Du Xiaojing. Her azure robes fluttered, and her jet-black hair swayed gently. She was as otherworldly as an immortal. Du Xiaojing looked at Du Tingxian and Du Xiaofu. Ripples flashed through her eyes without leaving a trace. Xiaojing, you are a disciple of legalism. You must remember this. Qin Yunlong said as he stared at Du Xiaojing. I'll remember this. Du Xiaojing retracted her gaze and stood quietly behind Qin Yunlong. Su Sanyin, Shi Yu, and the other saints looked at Du Xiaojing with complicated feelings. However, they did not say anything. In the end, they did not choose to attack Du Xiaofu. There's nothing left. Not a single one. There really isn't a single one left. They've all been taken away. In the vast ancient battlefield, many voices were heard everywhere. They wanted to search for sacred implements and treasures, as well as to find if there were any pouches of cosmos that had slipped through the net. Chapter 2079. But the result disappointed everyone. Not a single one was left. Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and Zhen Xingchun had taken all of them. Some experts had observed that there were at least 50 or 60 saint-level treasures, and there were also quite a number of cosmos bags. But now, all of them had fallen into the hands of Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and Du Xiaoyao. Swoosh, swoosh, in an instant, many people's eyes fell on Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and Zhen Xingchun. Their eyes were red. It's good that Xiaojing is fine. Du Xiaofu didn't care about the gazes around him. His feet touched the ground, and he rushed to Du Tingshuan's side, looking at the beautiful figure from afar. It's good that you're fine. Du Tingxian nodded. His expression hid guilt and self-blame. Devil religion. Far away in the void, very far away, there was billowing demonic aura. The evil aura affected the void. There were many figures there, emitting a terrifying aura. Du Xiaofu saw many familiar figures from afar. It seems that things are quite strange. Looking around, Du Xiaofu frowned slightly. Judging from the current lineup, there was no doubt that the demonic cult was an extremely terrifying force at the moment. There were several demon emperors, and the most powerful among them was so powerful that even the Moon Saint was no match for them. The legalism dragons and several other saint-level experts. Although there weren't many of them, they were even more difficult to deal with. They wouldn't have too many scruples. Du Xiaofu was deep in thought. The devil religion and the legalism dragons wouldn't let him go. Fortunately, he had his grandfather, Jialo Batian, Xian Gu, Moon Saint, and other experts with him. They all had their own scruples. In addition, there were also Taoist, School of Agriculture, School of Confucianism, School of Moism, School of Buddhism, and other sage realm experts, as well as rogue cultivators. Demon King Du Xiaofu, everyone who sees the treasures should have a share. So many of us have entered the eternal tomb, and many of us have died. We were almost killed as well, but we can't reap all the benefits alone. Suddenly, such a sentence came out from the crowd and spread through the void. When these words were spoken, many gazes immediately followed the voice and landed on a black-clothed old man in the crowd. It was a black-clothed, white-haired old man. His forehead was extremely high, and his cheekbones were deeply set. He gave off a gloomy and fierce feeling. Domain Lord Netheriller, this old man is still alive. Someone in the crowd spoke, recognizing the old man who spoke. He seemed to be quite famous. That's right. Everyone who sees a saint artifact should have a share. You can't keep it all to yourself. Everyone should have a share. You should at least take out some saint artifacts and treasures to share with everyone. There are so many of us here, and many of our friends and family have been robbed along the way. We cannot let the desolate country monopolize the treasures. As the Domain Lord Netheriller's voice trailed off, people gradually agreed with him in whispers. It didn't take long for many people to gather together. There were many rogue cultivators, and even many small and medium-sized forces. They had watched so many saint artifacts and treasures fall into the hands of the desolate country. They didn't want to return empty-handed. They hoped to gain something. However, at this moment, those major forces didn't participate. The dragons of legalism and other saint realm experts watched from afar. The people of the devil religion were entrenched in the distant sky, sizing up the front and ignoring the commotion. The Domain Lord Netheriller watched as more and more people around him supported him. There were even many people who were leaning towards him. There was a trace of a smile in his eyes. Everything was as he expected. The Demon King Du Xiaofu had obtained all the saint artifacts and treasures, which was enough to infuriate everyone. Although those major forces were still watching, as long as there was an opportunity, they wouldn't let it go. If he stirred up trouble, he would be able to fish in troubled waters. The Demon King Du Xiaofu would definitely be in a lot of trouble. Could it be that the Demon King still dared to provoke the crowd at this time? Demon King Du Xiaofu, it's not nice of you to monopolize the saint artifacts and treasures. In the heavenly devil battlefield, all of us have paid a price, but in the end, all the treasures fell into your hands. Are you trying to ignore us all? The Domain Lord Netherruler spoke again. With so many people supporting him, what could the Demon King Du Xiaofu do to him? He probably wouldn't dare to provoke everyone. Although it was disadvantageous for him to offend the Demon King and the desolate country, if he could get a saint artifact or something, it would be worth it. Boom. Suddenly, before Nether Rider Territorial Lord could finish his sentence, an extremely vigorous and fierce aura spread out in all directions. 18 figures stood upright as they pounced out. The formless and fierce aura froze the void. It was as if 18 peerless weapons had been born. The 18 figures shot out like 18 streaks of golden light. Their terrifying killing intent and baleful aura caused all living beings to tremble in fear. Kill. The black-robed youth in the lead was surging with killing intent. Under his scattered bangs, his eyes were piercingly cold and sharp. He rushed toward the crowd that was shouting the most actively. The sword in his hand swept out with unparalleled killing intent. Kill. A long spear pierced the void. A beast-like youth waved his spear and shattered the space where the spear passed. These were the 18 celestial guards. They were the 18 weapons of the World Society. They were known as the 18 weapons of the World Society. When someone provoked the desolate country and the Demon King Du Xiaofu, the 18 celestial guards didn't need to take orders and directly attacked. Rumble. In an instant, the sky was filled with runes and killing intent. Someone's body exploded and blood splattered. The muffled sound of energy mixed with screams was heard. There were endless screams and wails. How many of these motley crew could be a match for the 18 celestial guards? Let me do it. I'll take care of these annoying guys. A tender voice was heard. A small figure rushed out and appeared in the chaotic battlefield. It was a little girl with green eyes. She looked at the chaotic battlefield with excitement. Not only was she not afraid to retreat, but she was also looking forward to it. Du Xiaohuang, come back here. Zixuan shouted. The little girl who rushed out carelessly was none other than Du Xiaohuang. Godmother, don't worry. Those guys can't do anything to Du Xiaohuang. Little Xingxing curled her lips. She looked calm and had absolute confidence. Boom. At the same time, in the front of the battlefield, as Du Xiaohuang's tender voice fell, a ray of light shot out from her palm. In the palm of her hand, there was a 7-colored light in the green light. In the last moment, it turned into a huge mountain in the void. It was filled with alternating colors of white and black. There was a 7-colored light that fluctuated with runes. This mountain was very strange. From the foot of the mountain to the peak, there were countless caves, like a beehive. Chapter 2080. In fact, this mountain peak was more like an ant's nest. It was fluctuating with rich energy of heaven and earth, accompanied by a blazing and terrifying aura that spread across the sky. There was also the aura of a supreme beast of the Phoenix clan spreading out. When he saw that strange mountain peak, Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. Du Xiaofu did not stop Du Xiaohuang at this time. Although he was vigilant, his eyes were also filled with anticipation. Woo-woo! Suddenly, when that strange mountain peak appeared in the void, there was a strange sound wave that came out. The sound was not loud, but it could spread through the void, making people's souls uncomfortable. Hearing that strange sound, Lin Qingrong, Mo Tianxiao, Thunderhawk King, Mia Ming King, and the others' faces changed. That sound was too familiar to them. Woo-woo! There was an earth-shattering light that rushed out from that strange mountain peak. In an instant, the void was filled with that strange woo-woo sound. The light spread out, and densely packed strange creatures rushed out like locusts. In the blink of an eye, the entire void was filled with those strange objects that covered the sky and earth. They flickered with black and white light and emitted sounds that made one's heart tremble. They were also accompanied by blazing flames that carried 5 colors. Those strange creatures covered the sky, and when they gathered together, there were more than tens of thousands of them. They interweaved together and could directly seal the void. They were only the size of a little fingernail, and their bodies were black and white. They were like ants, revealing sharp fangs. Their legs were small and sharp, and they had 4 wings. These strange and ferocious creatures had small wings, but they could cut through the void. What was even more strange was that their wings were filled with 5 colored flames. That kind of aura seemed to be the same as the supreme beast of the Phoenix clan. What is that? It's so scary. Terrifying. A woman screamed, and her face turned pale with fright. Woo woo! The strange creatures that covered the sky and earth flapped their wings, and the sharp screeches from their mouths converged into that strange woo-woo sound. Their sharp fangs were like needles, shining with cold light. When they flapped their wings, 5 colored flames spread out, and it was more like a sea of fire was gathering and forming. The terrifying aura made people's hearts tremble, and their hair stand on end. Those strange creatures surrounded Du Xiaohuang at this moment, but they were submitting and revering her. Deal with them. Du Xiaohuang opened her mouth, her blue eyes glowing brightly, her childish voice carrying a kind of fierceness. Woo-woo, as Du Xiaohuang's voice faded. The strange creatures that blotted out the sky and covered the earth immediately pounced forward like locusts. Their terrifying auras set off spatial waves. Many of the most powerful auras were almost at the domain realm. Divine Soul Devouring Ant. That's the legendary Divine Soul Devouring Ant. The Divine Soul Devouring Ants that appeared in the Divine Domain are the Divine Soul Devouring Ants. The Divine Soul Devouring Ants in the Divine Domain are different. These Divine Soul Devouring Ants are much more terrifying. Someone finally recognized that these terrifying creatures were soul-devouring divine ants. When news of the soul-devouring divine ant spread, many creatures' expressions changed. That was definitely an incomparably terrifying creature, especially those who had been to the space of the divine domain. They knew that even the successor of the Great Snow Mountain, Lian Qingrong, was chased all over the world by the divine soul-devouring ants. It was enough to show how terrifying the divine soul-devouring ants were. Woo-woo! In an instant, a large area of the void was submerged into a sea of divine soul-devouring ants. It was as if a sea of fire was sweeping across. The strange hissing sound was ear-piercing and made people's hearts tremble. These divine soul-devouring ants were not afraid of death. They opened their ferocious mouths and tore at the void with their sharp fangs. They besieged the group led by the Nether Rider Territorial Lord, Yi Piaoling, Qingguyu, and the rest of the 18 Celestial Guards, who were in the midst of a massacre, had no choice but to retreat. They did not dare to be affected by the divine soul-devouring ants. The group of people surrounding the Nether Rider Territorial Lord was already terrified when Yi Piaoling, Qingguyu, and the others attacked them directly. They did not expect the people of the desolate country to attack them directly. Oh no, these are divine soul-devouring ants. Facing the divine soul-devouring ants that blotted out the sky and earth, these people trembled in fear and their pupils contracted. Bang bang! Some people attacked with all their might, activating their celestial artifacts, secret techniques, and meridians. They blasted the space apart, and a large area of talisman runes flooded the void. Woo-woo, however, a strange scene occurred. These obstructions only sent some of the weaker divine soul-devouring ants flying. However, the divine soul-devourer ant, whose cultivation had reached the domain level, rapidly flew out from the shattered void. It was able to devour the mysterious runes of the talismans. In an instant, it appeared in front of the crowd and burrowed into the bodies of many people. The densely packed divine soul-devouring ants covered the crowd. Some experts even turned into skeletons in an instant. Their primordial spirits were also devoured by the divine soul-devouring ants. Ah, the divine soul-devouring ants that blotted out the sky and earth swept out. Those who were shouting at the people of the desolate country screamed one after another. They could not stop them at all. They did not even have the strength to escape. At this moment, the motley crew finally realized what a foolish choice they had made. What a terrifying divine soul-devouring ants. Many people were amazed. It was hard to imagine how such a small divine soul-devouring ant could contain such a terrifying power. These divine soul-devouring ants were not afraid of death. They were terrifyingly powerful. They seem to have changed. They are stronger. Du Xiaofu murmured. These divine soul-devouring ants had changed a lot compared to before. They had an additional 5-colored flame and contained the supreme power of the Phoenix clan. There was no doubt that they had also transformed. They were much stronger than before. Du Xiaofu knew the divine soul-devouring ants very well. These divine soul-devouring ants were not only difficult to deal with and tough, but they were also large in number. They were not afraid of death and were loyal to the Ant King. They only obeyed the Ant King's orders. No one dared to provoke them. The sudden change happened too quickly. The territorial lord's face was extremely ugly. He seemed to have not recovered from the shock. Everything was beyond his expectations. The Demon King had not spoken yet, but the 18 celestial guards had already attacked him. Now, these terrifying divine soul-devouring ants had appeared. The screams around made the territorial lord tremble even more. Uneasiness and fear surged from the depths of his primordial spirit. Demon King, Du Xiaofu, are you looking down on everyone? Do you want to be the enemy of the world? Bang! Territorial Lord Yu Ming struck out with a palm print that blasted toward the domain realm divine, soul-devouring ant that was charging toward him. The territorial lord's strength was extraordinary. He dared to take advantage of the situation and provoke the crowd because of his extraordinary strength. His cultivation base was close to the peak of the overlord domain realm. In the entire world, he was an absolute expert. Chapter 2081. Boom! The territorial lord's palm strike pushed back the soul-devouring divine ant. A large area of space was shattered, and a powerful beast shadow rushed out from it. Old thing, you're the most annoying. Du Xiaohuang stared at the territorial lord. Her small body burst out with bright light in an instant. Green light filled the sky, and a terrifying pressure spread out. She turned into the soul-devouring divine ant. This soul-devouring divine ant was only the size of an infant. Its 8 wings were connected together, and they were as thin as a cicada's wings. When it flapped its wings slightly, its wings were enveloped by 7-colored divine flames. It emitted a 7-colored brilliance from the inside out. A strand of golden light flickered through, releasing the supreme beast pressure of the Phoenix clan. It was also accompanied by the domineering pressure of the golden-winged Peng clan. Although this 7-colored flame looked weak, it was not comparable to the 5-colored flame of the ordinary Phoenix clan. Only Huang Ling-er, who had the ancestral blood, could be compared to it. Boom! When such a soul-devouring divine ant appeared, the entire void trembled. Under the terrifying pressure, many creatures trembled, and many beasts prostrated themselves. The divine ant flapped its wings and swooped down with the 7-colored divine flames around its body. Its momentum was shocking. With a flap of his 8 wings, the divine ant appeared in the sky. The supreme might engulfed the vast sky and the vast blue dome of heaven. A beam of light was pointed directly at venerable Nethercrusher. Symbols and 7-colored flames blossomed in an instant. The blazing aura and supreme might were extremely heavy, shocking the world. Gee! The divine ant screeched like a phoenix. The brilliant beam of light was peerless and powerful, shattering everything. This was the power of Du Xiaohuang's supreme ant phoenix, along with the power of the golden-winged rock clan, the Phoenix clan, and the soul-devouring divine ant itself. Du Xiaohuang had undergone a nirvana transformation, turning from a cocoon into a butterfly. At this moment, its wings shook the world, causing the world to boil and shake the world. Supreme Ant Phoenix. In the distant void, when such words came out from the mouths of many Saint Realm experts, the world was completely shaken. The Supreme Ant Phoenix was a legendary existence. It was rumored that in ancient times, there was a Supreme Ant Phoenix that could fight side by side with the ancestral Phoenix. How powerful was that? It left behind endless legends and peerless demeanor in ancient times. And now, Another supreme ant phoenix had been born. When the supreme being ant phoenix appeared, its 8 wings spread out in unison. It possessed the might of 3 supreme being beast clans, making it incomparable. Divine soul devouring ant. This is the supreme ant phoenix. Yuming territorial lord was horrified. His eyes twitched violently as the terrifying pressure made his divine soul tremble. How could he have imagined that the seemingly harmless little girl was actually the legendary ant phoenix, a terrifying existence in the legends? However, he was close to the peak of the Overlord realm. The Nethermaster Territorial Lord was no weakling either. He had cultivated to this point and left a fearsome reputation in Kyushu. He definitely didn't rely on luck alone. Boom. The Underworld Domain Lord made his move. His methods were not ordinary. He had obtained the inheritance of an ancient sect and had a secret technique that turned into runes that filled the sky. They condensed into a halo of light that protected his body like a shield to resist the supreme ant phoenix's attack. The collision was very intense, and the energy rushed in all directions. Roar, Yuming Territorial Lord was rich in battle experience, and his attacks were vicious. He took advantage of the momentum to soar into the sky. As he condensed a handprint in his hand, a long saber suddenly appeared, releasing an extraordinary power. Mysterious runes erupted. It was a treasure close to the level of a divine artifact. He slashed at Du Xiaohuang's body with the saber. Screech. The supreme ant phoenix flapped its wings and let out a phoenix cry. The 7-colored divine fire on its body burned even more fiercely. It flapped its wings and blocked the saber. The saber light and the fire shadow were shocking, and the surrounding void shattered inch by inch. Yuming Territorial Lord was shocked. He didn't expect the supreme ant phoenix to be stronger than he had imagined. His saber was blocked, and only a few marks were left on its 8 wings. Then, the former's marks were restored in the 7-colored flames and were intact. Such a physical body was too terrifying. It was terrifying. Du Xiaohuang's true form, the supreme ant phoenix, was slightly shaken. The dazzling light on her body flowed with golden light and 7-colored flames. Her eyes turned into 7 colors. She flapped her wings and pounced at the Nethermaster Territorial Lord again, trying to kill him. Boom. Yuming Territorial Lord had nowhere to retreat and was unable to escape. He gave it his all. His aura, which was close to the peak of the Master Domain, burst out without reservation. Mysterious martial veins surged on his body, and many beast shadows appeared in front and behind him. These beast shadows were the size of small mountains. They filled the void and swept toward Du Xiaohuang's true form like a beast tide. Auwu! The phantoms roared like living creatures. They spat out mysterious runes, ferocious and ferocious. They wanted to crush Du Xiaohuang's small true form in the void. This terrifying power made many people gasp for Du Xiaohuang. The supreme ant phoenix was terrifying, but Du Xiaohuang was still too young and hadn't matured. Little Star watched from afar, but he wasn't worried at all. However, the eyes of Feng Qi Saint, Feng Fenchen, Huang Ling, Feng Han, and the other powerhouses of the Phoenix clan fluctuated. They seemed to be waiting for something. All of a sudden, Du Xiaohuang's small true form didn't retreat at all. Instead, she advanced. A violent and blazing aura erupted from her body. It shook the clouds and soared into the sky. In the next moment, 7-colored flames surged from Du Xiaohuang's body. Boom! 8 wings flapped, and the entire void shook. The 7-colored flames condensed into a 1,000-meter-long phantom of a phoenix. It spread its wings and covered the sky. It made people feel small and shocked. A terrifying pressure emanated from the gigantic phantom of the phoenix, causing all beasts to tremble in fear. Du Xiaofu's gaze was trembling. At this moment, he was also shocked by the 7-colored flame that Du Xiaohuang had activated. The 7-colored flame was a little different from the 7-colored flame on Huang Ling's body, but its power seemed to be on par. It seemed to be even stronger than the phoenix bathing fire that Feng Han had activated when they fought. This is the Nirvana Flame. It's a divine ability that Du Xiaohuang obtained after transforming in the Nirvana Divine Pool. It's even better than the Phoenix Bathing Fire. Zi Xin's voice entered Du Xiaofu's ears, telling him the origin of the flames on Du Xiaohuang's body. The Nirvana flame is even better than the Phoenix bathing fire. Du Xiaofu's eyes rippled. The Phoenix bathing fire was already terrifying. Rumor had it that those who could cultivate the Phoenix bathing fire were all incomparably powerful. They were said to be able to burn everything, including all living beings. Du Xiaohuang's Nirvana flame was even better. If it reached the limit, how terrifying would it be? This is my clan's Nirvana flame. When Du Xiaohuang used the Nirvana flame, the experts of the Phoenix clan all trembled and their eyes trembled. Feng Han, Huang Ling Huang Wu, and the others also had waves in their eyes. Chapter 2082. Nirvana Flame, Phoenix Dances in the Nine Heavens. It took a long time to describe, but the fight was as fast as lightning. Du Xiaohuang's childish voice was full of pressure. Ku! The cry of a phoenix resounded through the sky. 7 colored flames surged from the enormous figure of the phoenix. Many living beings, especially the beasts, were unable to withstand the supreme pressure and reverted to their true forms, roaring and hissing. The image of the phoenix whizzed out along with the flames of Nirvana, and it seemed as if the world was about to be covered. The terrifying power and heat burned the surrounding void, turning it into a dark vacuum. The deep dark light made one's hair stand on end. Whoosh! The enormous phoenix phantom that blotted out the sky flapped its wings, and it carried along the flames of rebirth that covered the heavens and the earth as it surged like a torrent. The terrifying heat was enough to burn all living things. It destroyed many of the beasts summoned by Nether Rider Territorial Lord and burned them into smoke in the sea of 7 colored flames. This kind of attack was too shocking. The terrifying flames swept toward Nether Rider Territorial Lord. Nether Rider Territorial Lord's face was pale, and his eyes were full of shock. The terrifying heat made his primordial spirit feel like it was on fire. Boom! The last breath of the Domain Lord was surging out. His hair stood on end and emitted a dazzling light. The mysterious runes of the talisman condensed into an ancient armor around his body. The aura was very ancient, but it emitted a dazzling light. Only some places were dimmed. It was a protective treasure obtained by Nether Drive Territorial Lord from the ancient sect. Although some parts of it were damaged, many cultivators at the same level as him had died in his hands over the years because of this protective armor. The phoenix shadow shrouded Du Xiaohuang's true form, the Supreme Ant Queen, came out from it. At this moment, Du Xiaohuang's true form shone brightly. The golden 7-colored flames and the green light intertwined with each other. The pair of tentacles in front of her shook slightly as if they were clenched into fists. When the fists were formed, a bright green light accompanied by a golden brilliance gushed out. The green and golden brilliance were like 2 rising suns in the sky, showing a terrifying ultimacy. Rumble. The aura of a supreme being suddenly descended, like the sound of the heavens ceaselessly. Above the void behind Du Xiaohuang, 8 divine rings suddenly appeared in the sky. A supreme being was born. The 8 divine rings circled around his fists and resonated with his fists, shooting out thousands of fists. The power of the supreme ant phoenix. Du Xiaohuang let out a thunderous roar. Her divine halo surged and shone brightly. Her fists shot out like the rising sun, aiming at the territorial lord of Nether Drive territory and punching him in the chest. The Nether Rider Territorial Lord was trembling, and the ancient armor on his body was glowing. Mysterious runes protected his body, and a mysterious power blended together to form a sturdy fortress. However, the fist of Du Xiaohuang, the supreme ant phoenix, resonated with the 8 divine rings and released an astonishing ultimacy. Vaguely, the domineering aura of the golden winged giant rocks and the power of the true phoenix swept out. After a short pause, it directly corroded and shattered the ancient armor of the Netherworld Territorial Lord. Chila. Under this pair of tiny fists, the ancient armor on the Nether Rider Territorial Lord's body was shattered. Instantly, the broken flesh on his back burst out, revealing a bloody hole. The pitiful Nether Rider Territorial Lord's eyes were filled with terror as he felt the aura of death clearly and strongly. Bang, bang, bang. The Netherworld Territorial Lord's body and primordial spirit were corroded and destroyed by the impact. He could not resist the terrible power, and finally, his body completely shattered in the void. The Netherworld Territorial Lord was dead, and his spirit was destroyed. There was no reason for the silence, and countless people were in a daze. Huff huff. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The birth of such a supreme ant phoenix shocked the world. What a terrifying supreme ant phoenix! Among the major forces, the experts were shocked. Such a supreme ant phoenix had endless potential. It's that little guy. She has transformed. She didn't disappoint the ant emperor. Beside Purple Lotus Fairy, Hongyu spoke. Her long purple hair looked hazy and dreamy, shrouded in light. You know the origin of the supreme ant phoenix? Purple Lotus Fairy looked back, and her red lips parted slightly. Her voice was soft, and Chenyu heard it. No, I'm not sure. I've only heard of it. Hongyu immediately shook her head, and there was an evasive look in her eyes. Oh, this supreme ant phoenix is extraordinary. She's still young, but her potential is endless. Purple Lotus Fairy smiled slightly, as if she did not see the evasive look in Hongyu's eyes. She's not at the reincarnation Nirvana realm, but she killed someone at the peak of the main region realm. The supreme ant phoenix is worthy of her reputation. Xingu said. He could not help but be shocked by such a supreme ant phoenix. The little girl seems to have the aura of the golden-winged rock clan on her. Jialo Beishan's golden eyes were also filled with shock. He had sharp eyes. Du Xiaohuang's talent and combat strength were not inferior to Jialo Jueyu, who had the true bone. Her potential was also not inferior to Jialo Jueyu's. When Du Xiaohuang was suffering from a disease, I used the grass of immortality and my own blood to maintain her vitality. I did not expect that she would have the aura of the golden-winged rock clan. A smile appeared on Du Xiaofu's originally solemn face. He told Jialo Batian the reason why Du Xiaohuang had the aura of the golden-winged rock clan. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was also very shocked. The supreme ant phoenix was indeed worthy of its reputation. It was much stronger than he had imagined. Du Xiaohuang's transformation into a supreme ant phoenix had 8 divine rings in the sky. This level of nirvana was only a hair's breadth away from the nirvana of a grand supreme. Especially the flames of nirvana and the power of the supreme ant phoenix. Their might was shocking. No wonder. No wonder. Ha 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 ha. This little girl and my golden-winged rock clan are really fated. Jialo Batian laughed loudly. Such a supreme ant phoenix was definitely related to the golden-winged rock clan. In terms of seniority, Du Xiaofu was his great-grandson. There was no doubt that the golden-winged rock clan had filled another terrifying junior supreme. Hearing Jialo Beishan's words, Saint Fengqi felt somewhat sullen. Logically speaking, the supreme ant phoenix should have been the closest to the Phoenix clan. But now, it seemed that Du Xiaohuang had become a member of the golden-winged rock clan. However, Saint Fengqi also understood that with little Xingxing and Du Xiaohuang's relationship with Du Xiaofu, they were probably the closest to the barren nation. 8 divine rings of fire, the transformation of life and death, nirvana of life and death. The power of the supreme ant phoenix is rumored to be able to destroy the world. Its future is limitless, Moon Saint whispered. Wuru! The soul-eating divine ants all over the sky hissed. The sound was terrifying to the soul. The creatures that had gathered around the Netherworld Domain Lord were all killed. The motley crew could not escape the encirclement of the soul-eating divine ants. Their souls were destroyed amidst their screams.